flames nor their depths could claim me.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Solarbacca bringing you guys today another video, and I'm excited to finally show you guys my complete Gangplank guide for Season 12. In this guide, you will see who Solarbacca is, why you should play Gangplank, what Gangplank's abilities actually do, a brief barrel overview, all of his possible item paths, an overview on every Gangplank matchup in top lane and some matchups in mid lane, and finally a 2-game demonstration of my Gangplank in high elo on both NA and EUS. As always, if you guys do enjoy the video, please like the video, subscribe, and follow my stream at twitch.tv/solarbacca to learn how to climb, and watch the video until the end to see a big reveal. Alright, so let's start off with who is Solarbacca. So I'm the highest ranked GP main on NA for 4 seasons. I have a peak of 1003 LP in Challenger. I hit EUS Challenger in Season 12 on 90 ping. I did an educational series on my stream this season where I went from Bronze to Diamond all solo queue with a 90% win rate. If you care about stat sides, I'm also rank 1 and rank 4 on Gangplank globally. I have over 6 million mastery points, and I've coached many pro players on Gangplank domestically and the LCS/Academy, and internationally, including the LEC and the LCO. Alright, so next up we have why you should play Gangplank. So Gangplank is one of the hardest champions in the game to play, and although I do receive a lot of praise for how I play him, I don't even think I'm close to 85% mastery of this champion. So there's still an insane amount of untapped potential in this champion. He has potential to one-shot entire teams with a single barrel. He has multiple build paths, which I will get into later in the video. Gangplank can also solo carry games regardless of if you're playing in Iron or in Challenger once you learn some basic fundamentals. He wins most matchups in laning phase. And lastly, the most important reason, he's a pirate. Who doesn't want to be a pirate? Alright, next up we're going to do a short little rundown on all of Gangplank's abilities, starting with his passive, Trial by Fire. It grants you movement speed and does true damage to the enemy opponent on a 15-second cooldown.
Haze is a child.
Boom, we get a lot of movement speed, does true damage, beautiful. Gangplank's Q is a click to win ability that applies on-hit effects and is on a very, very short cooldown. As you can see, it applied the crit effect, and it also applies Essence Reaver, which is a Sheen, which is a Spellblade effect. So now it goes on cooldown. It applies all on-hit effects except for your own passive. So kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And also, Gangplank's Q, as if it wasn't strong enough, it also grants you gold and silver serpents whenever you execute a target with Q. So here on these raptors, I have 24 silver serpents. Let's see how much gold I get. I got 8 plus 5 gold and also 5 silver serpents, if I'm not mistaken. 6 silver serpents, actually, one trick, by the way. I got 6 silver serpents and 5 gold off of that one Q. Next, we have Gangplank's Orange, remove scurvy. So Gangplank's Orange can be used for literally any CC in the game. Even if you're still suspended in the air by like a Lee Sin kick, you can Orange and then flash, and it's as if nothing ever happened to you. Your Orange can get you out of Mordekaiser Death Realm, Tahm Kench Eat, and so many other CCs. It gives you health and is a free Q assess, so it's a very, very, very strong ability. Next, we have Gangplank's Barrel. So Gangplank's Powder Kegs, they have a little timer on them. And when that timer gets down to 1 health, it can now be disarmed. Disarmed or blown up, depending on if the enemy auto-attacks it, or if you auto-attack it first and blow it up. So you can blow this up with your auto-attack, or with your Q. The Powder Keg, from levels 1 to 6, goes down very slow. It's very, very, very slow. However, once you level up to level 7, level myself up, it goes down a bit faster. Once you're level 13, your barrels decay even quicker. So this is almost instant now. So this can lead to some crazy team fighting and crazy 1v1s in which you get a lot of barrels off in a team fight. Your barrels also ignore 40% of all of the enemy team's armor, so it's very, very, very strong. And if that wasn't enough, watch this. I'm gonna auto attack this dummy, and then I'm gonna blow up the barrel. Passive's on a 15-second cooldown, but I blew up a barrel, suddenly my passive is back up. That's right, barrels also refresh your passive, which is absolutely insane. And you get movement speed from blowing up your barrels as well. So they ignored 40% armor. The decay rate goes down lower the more you level up, which allows you to get more damage off because well, the timing is much quicker. Now you can hit opponents much faster as opposed to waiting for that slow decay rate at levels 1 through 6. And you get movement speed. Very, very, very strong. You also start off with 3 powder kegs from levels 1 to 9. Once you hit level 10, you get 4 barrels in your inventory. And once you hit level 13, you get 5 barrels in your inventory, which leads to some crazy things like this. The entire time, the opponent is slowed. They literally have no way to escape it. It's really disgusting. Next, we have Gangplank's ulti. So Gangplank's ultimate is a cross-map global ulti similar to Jinx Rocket, Ezreal R, and a variety of other ults as well. So you can ult anywhere on the map, like we said. We can ult here if I wanted to. Or I could ult right here. It does magic damage. It slows the target. And it has pretty high base damage, to be quite honest with you. You level it up at level 6, 11, 16. And this ability can be upgraded using the Silver Serpents that we learned about earlier. So with hopefully some editing magic, you guys will be able to see me at 500 Silver Serpents. So I'll see you guys in a second. All right, and we're back. We're back, and I have my ultimate upgrade already. So there are 3 upgrades you can get as Gangplank, and it shows right here in this little overlay. After you reach 500 Silver Serpents, you can buy one of 3 ult upgrades. However, if you get 1,000, right? If you get 1,000 Silver Serpents, then you could do the whole thing again and buy 2 ult upgrades. So theoretically, you could also get all 3 of these. You can get all 3 of these ult upgrades, which are all very strong and bring their own value. Let's start off with Fire at Will. So Fire at Will, cannon barrages fire at an increasing rate over time, additional 6 waves over the duration. So essentially, your ulti shoots like this, right? Pretty slow, but you know, it's strong. It is what it is. Versus this. So way faster and also does a lot more damage. So let me show you it on the target dummy. Yeah, it did 1330 damage on a global ulti. That is absolutely insane. And now if you guys will excuse me, I will introduce you to the other 2 ult upgrades. Alright, and we're finally back. So now we have 1,000 Silver Serpents that we farmed. So that means we can buy the other 2 ult upgrades. As you guys saw, we saw Fire at Will first. Now we're gonna see Death's Daughter. So it fires pretty much a center ult similar to Zig's ult, where if you hit the outer rims, you do the normal damage that you normally would with your ultimate. But if you hit them in the middle, you do 300% true damage, and you also slow them by 60% for 1.5 seconds as it states. So right here, that center part did 210 true damage. So that's really insane. That did 1540 in total to that guy. So that is an absurd amount of damage that I just did to that guy. Next, we have Gangplank's last ult upgrade, Raise Morale. So pretty straightforward. Allies in the cannon barrage gain 30% movement speed for 2 seconds. Nothing crazy about it. So this is a normal ult, and then this is Raise Morale ulti. I go from 345 movement speed to 442. So that's a pretty big difference to go from 345 to 442. I went up an entire, well, a lot more. It feels like a lot more than 30%. I went up 100 base movement speed, which is insane, meaning that if you sell your boots, you still have this ult upgrade to help you out. So very, 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 very nice ult upgrade. And now I'm going to tell you guys which ult upgrade to go every single game. Pretty much every single game. No matter what, you will always go Fire at Will first. The reason? You will do a lot of damage and it's more consistent. Of these 3 ult upgrades, Fire at Will and Raise Morale are tied for the most consistency. But Raise Morale is more consistent in utility, whereas Fire at Will is more consistent in damage. Because it covers the entire ultimate, it doesn't matter if they're standing at the edge or in the middle, they will take the same amount of damage. Death's Daughter is highly unreliable because there's not every opportunity that you're going to get somebody in the center of your ult. And a lot of the time, they can react to it and just flash out of it, right? So if they flash out of it, there goes your 500 Silver Serpents that you worked 20 minutes, 30 minutes farming for, right? Because a lot of the time, you're not going to have you're probably going to have 2 upgrades in a game, 2 ultimate upgrades. Rarely you'll get 3, but most of the time you'll get 1 or 2. So you don't want to spend that hard work of farming on an unreliable ult upgrade that only boosts you up by like 210 damage. Whereas Fire at Will actually increases the damage, right? It increases the damage to I think 300, where this one was 210. However, Fire at Will is over the entire duration of the ultimate. But again, it shoots faster, more reliable in a team fight, slows them. It's brutal. It's brutal to play against Fire at Will Gangplank. So I would say your general ult upgrades will go Fire at Will, Raise Morale, then Death's Daughter. However, if you have Lockdown on your team, a Twisted Fate Gold card, Nautilus ult, Leona, I would say you go Fire at Will, followed by Death's Daughter. The reasoning for that is because, like I said, even though Death's Daughter is an unreliable ult upgrade, if you have Lockdown, if you have CC, all of a sudden, landing the center of that ulti is not so hard. So I would recommend, again, if you have that Twisted Fate, you have that Leona, you have that Nautilus, it is very much so viable to go Death's Daughter as a second ultimate upgrade. And that's it for the rundown of Gangplank's abilities. Alright, before we get into runes, I just want to preface this by saying all of these runes are things that I would take in my games and challenger games and bronze games, and this is what I refer challenger players to, professional players, and bronze, iron, silver, gold, plat, diamond players as well. So nothing of what I'm saying is anything that I don't believe in, because I feel like some people would say, oh, Solarbacca, why are you showing us these runes if you don't even take them yourselves? But it's like, I do take all of these myself. So just wanted to get that out of the way, and with that being said, let's get into the first rune page, which is Grasp plus Bone Plating. So as you can see, pretty standard stuff. We have Grasp, Demolish, Bone Plating, Overgrowth, and we have secondary with Futures Market and Time Warp Tonic. Pretty standard page. Even after the Time Warp Tonic nerfs, I still think it's absolutely worth it, and you will take these into the matchups that you see on your screen. Next up, we have Grasp plus Second Wind. So same exact page, it's just different in that you're taking it versus matchups that don't necessarily all in you. They kind of just poke you from afar, such as Rumble, Rumble, Malphite with this Q spam, Lucian with just auto attacking you, Jace, Fiora, Camille, I believe, are also great examples of this. Quinn, I think, is a star example of this as well. And with that being said, let's go to the next rune page, which is First Strike. So First Strike, I am a huge believer of that it's underrated, especially in professional play and in higher elo. I don't see enough players taking it. They're like defaulting to Grasp, but they're not getting as good. They're not getting as big of a lead as they could be. Grasp is obsolete after the first or second recall in Gangplank. It's mainly just an early game rune to ensure that you have control of the wave early, because if you have control of the wave early, then ultimately you can kind of get a lead for yourself and just be this island top laner who can 1v1 or potentially 1v2 and just secure a lead for yourself. However, there are some matchups you don't need Grasp. There are a lot of matchups that you can still get pry, you can still get bounce back on the wave, still get a cheater recall off with First Strike. So those are the matchups that I believe First Strike plus Domination Secondary with Treasure Hunter, this exact rune page, can benefit from. It's very, very strong and gives you way harder scaling. So pretty basic stuff. Next we have Gangplank. Now Gangplank, this Gangplank setup is what I take versus most mid laners and a lot of uninteractive matchups top lane as well. So what we have here is First Strike, we have free boots, 300 gold, magical footwear, minion dematerializer, and let me explain briefly how this works if you haven't watched any of my videos or you're new to the channel, whatever it may be. Once you're level 7, all it takes is about 1400 gold to one-shot the back wave, the caster minions. At level 7 from the rest of the game, all you need is a Sheen double longsword, or Sheen Cole longsword, or Sheen D-blade longsword. Any of those variations will allow you to one-shot the back wave. And if you wanted to even elevate the strategy, I'll explain the double cloak strategy later on. But if you do get a crit early on the wave after Essence Reaver completion, and you use one of these DMATs on the melee minion, whenever you crit, you are guaranteed to one-shot the front and the back wave permanently for the rest of the game. I will get into that a little bit more later though. And that's pretty much why I take Dematerializer. It gets you insane farm on your Q, along with Silver Serpents, which, as I showed you before, increases your ult damage by about anywhere from 200 to 400 damage. So you can get that upgrade at like 11 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes reliably every game if you take Dematerializer into the specific matchups that you see on your screen. Taking it into any other matchup, I believe, is a little bit risky, but if you want to experiment, let me know in the comment section down below how it went for you, and I might just try it out myself. So that's pretty much TLDR of Dematerializer. If you want to see it used in Challenger games or other like Diamond games, I do have a lot of those videos on my channel. If you just type in Solarbacca Dematerializer or strategy, then it should pop up. Time Warp Tonic, because although Time Warp Tonic is nerfed, I still think it's very strong, as I mentioned before. And if you're taking Dematerializer, it's really up to you whether you use Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter, or if you use Eyeball Collection Treasure Hunter. This means you're not trading, this means you are trading. So that's pretty much when I take that with Dematerializer. And finally, the last rune page that we have here is my First Strike Bone Plating setup. So as you can see here, we don't have free boots, but we have Perfect Timing Futures, Time Warp, Bone Plating, and Overgrowth, which is a free Ruby Crystal worth of health. And I take this into matchups that they can't really poke me. They have to all-in me all the time, because if they don't all-in me, I'm going to murder them. This includes Set, Riven, Master Yi, Akshan, Aurelia, Jax. All these matchups have to jump on you one way or another, and if you trade Q on them and they try to go on you, you'll typically end up winning out in the trade, especially if you have a pre-placed barrel, which you should against all of these melee matchups. They're typically melee matchups with the exception of Akshan. Then you'll be able to pretty much win the trade, and as long as you win that one trade early, they can't play for the rest of the lane unless you make some horrendous mistake. So this is the setup that I would take versus all the matchups you see on your screen. And like I said before, I truly believe in my runes, I truly believe in my playstyle, I truly believe that a lot more people could be adopting these playstyles and carrying their games at all ranks, at all types of play. And on that note, let's move to the next segment. Alright, next up we have all potential item build paths. From my last itemization video, things have changed a little bit. I'm not going to say they changed a lot, but they definitely haven't stayed the same either. Here's a new strategy that I've been doing that was recently displayed by Bwippo in the LCS as well. It was going Essence Reaver into Double Cloak. Now, the reason why I advocate for this strategy so strongly is because as Gangplank, with the crit modifier on your barrel and with your Q doing a lot of damage, it follows the same concept as the Trinity into multiple cloaks build, except with going Essence Reaver and Double Cloak, you're going to be sitting at 50% crit chance, allowing you to win the lane with literally a single Q or a single barrel, as opposed to just sitting on 20% and trying to get over your Prowler's Claw hump. What do I mean by hump? You're waiting to spike, you're waiting to get to your next power spike, which would be after Prowler's completion and critting. So, to get rid of this hump that Gangplank has, and getting from Essence Reaver to Prowler's Claw, I go Double Cloak. 1200 gold, very cheap, gets you more first strike gold, more lane priority, more lane prowess, and overall, it makes your game so much healthier. And you might be saying, well, aren't you relying on RNG? Typically how Gangplank trades is with a barrel to barrel, and then a Essence empowered or Sheen empowered Q afterwards. You're likely to crit on either one of those, and if either one of those crits, it could be entirely lane changing, lane defining. Let's say you're against a Riven, as we mentioned earlier, the champion who comes into you. Well, now you're going to hit the barrel when she dashes on you, and you're probably going to auto her once with passive, and then Q her. If any one of those three crit, you're guaranteed to win it. Whereas if you only have Caulfields and let's say a Dirk, or if you just have a Dirk, right? Because it's 1100 gold versus the 1200 gold, you get significantly more value out of having Double Cloak. This is why I'm advocating for this strategy, and I'm going to show you guys as well in the gameplays that are coming up why this strategy has been so strong. I've been trying to find new ways to innovate how to get over these awkward humps and get over these awkward power spikes until GP can really be like this 1v9 character. And I think this is one of the final pieces. I've been doing this for about a month now, and it has not let me down at all. It is very strong, and I recommend each and every one of you who watch this video at least try it before you knock it. So this is my typical build: Essence, Double Cloak, Boots, Prowler's Claw, and then LDR or Collector, depending on how much armor the enemy team has, into Infinity Edge. Next up, we have, well, the exact same thing, actually. It's just a matter of boots changing. Literally the exact same thing. Still going Double Cloak. Now, versus hard matchups such as Aurelia, Lucian, Jace, Camille, Gwen, I recognize that not a lot of people, especially at the highest level in professional play or in Challenger, want to go, hey, I'm playing against this Jace and Kennen and Sion. I don't think I want to go your crit build. Maybe not Sion, but let's say more Jace and Kennen. I don't want to go your crit build. Is there anything else I can go? And the answer is yes. For itemization, you can go Trinity Force, and then you can go boots, either Lucidity or Tabbies. Something I will say, Lucidity boots are significantly less important when you're going the Trinity build, because you can make up your CDR later in the form of Anathema Chains, Maw, Hydra, Zonia. All these items give a lot of haste, and when you're going Trinity Force Gangplank, you're mostly relying on passive resets rather than raw damage. So being low on CDR in exchange for Tabbies is 100% a worthy trade if you're playing against any of these matchups as I mentioned: Aurelian, Lucian, Jace, Camille, Gwen. If you're one of those people who say, I prefer Trinity, this is what you do. I would recommend Trinity, Tabbies. Hullbreaker is a disgustingly strong item. An alternative could be Death Stance to the Hullbreaker. Another alternative is Maw of Malmortius, because the Hex Shrinker is really strong early. You get haste, and you get a giant shield in addition to that. That's for your second item. You're choosing between one of these three. Next, I always recommend Anathema's third. I think it's just the strongest item on Gangplank. It gives you 650 health. That is an absurd amount of health. 650 health, 20 haste. I believe the passive on Anathema Chains, which is a free exhaust permanently on one member on the enemy team, in addition to them having 20% reduced tenacity while near you, I believe it makes it so your slow on your barrel lasts longer. So that 80% slow is lasting more for more than 1 or 2 seconds. It's lasting maybe 2.2, 2.3, right? Which may sound small, but I believe it's reduced tenacity in general. So even if you have like a Leona on your team, they're going to be getting CC locked out of their mind. So I believe that Anathema Chains is probably the strongest third item on Gangplank, period. I think there is no reason you should never not build it, and you could always put it on the AP champion. For example, if you're a professional player and you're watching this video, let's imagine a typical comp, right? Let's say it's let's say Jace. You're against Jace, maybe Jace, Viego, Ahri mid lane, right? And then their 80 carry is like, it doesn't matter. It's like Zaya Rakan or something, right? You put this Anathema Chains on that Ahri or on that LeBlanc for 2,500 gold, you'll be unkillable. If you built a Hullbreaker, you're getting a bunch of resistances, and you're getting health, and you're getting more health to make that armor and MR even more useful. Same logic applies to Maw of Malmortius and Death Stance. You make so much more value out of that armor and MR that you build that I believe Anathema Chains on Gangplank third on Trinity Force is a must. I think if you're going crit with Trinity Force, you are lost. I don't think you should be ever going crit with Trinity Force. I think you should just go Essence Reaver at that point, because the same conditions are met. I think if you're going Trinity Force and you pivot into crit, it's because something is happening in the game, or your team is severely behind but you're ahead. And that's the very niche circumstance. 99.99% of the time, you will just go build like this. After 3 items, Gangplank falls off with Trinity. What do I mean falling off? Falling off in spiking. Not necessarily in damage, because again, his passive procs are your main source of damage and they're going to get higher and higher, but you're not going to gain much more damage on your barrels. You're not going to gain much more beefiness that's going to matter or be relevant after the 3rd item in the game. So what do I recommend? You get items that kind of mostly it's like stat items, these giant ass stat items, right? So Hydra, you get that insane Omnivamp, you get that beautiful damage, you get more haste, right? And assuming you're running Tabbies, right? Let's do the math here. We get 20 haste, we get Anathemas, no matter what, 40 haste, and then here you're getting 60 haste. That's a good amount of haste to have for a Trinity build. That's 40% CDR. Very, very strong. Now let's say you don't want Hydra. Zonia's is another great item. because whatever Anathemas is not solving, Zonia's is guaranteed to solve. The only reason why I don't say Zonia's over Anathemas is because, generally speaking, Anathemas is the better version of Zonia's. But this will also help a lot, especially in the side lane. You'll be unkillable in a 1v2, no matter what. I promise you, if you have if you're building like Zonia's as third or fourth, you'll be unkillable in the side lane. Like you don't have to be good at GP. You don't need to land barrels. Your champion will carry itself along with the items that you have. All that in combination, as long as you land maybe 1 barrel, 2 max, you will win the side lane. So if you're a pro player and watching this, this might be the most attractive build to you. Demonic Embrace is just generally a good or 5th or 6th item. You get a lot of that health as AP, and at this point, level 17, 16, 18, everyone has a lot of base health, so burning them for that max health is very good. And also, since Gangplank is a melee champion, right, he's getting the full burn effect of 2%, right, of max health damage, which also applies on your barrels. Now, next item set is if you're against champions that have 2 more shields and 2 more healers. Healing in general I don't think is a problem for GP to deal with, but if there's healing and shielding, this is a very good, it's kind of like a Walmart build, but it's a very hard spiking cheap item build. So here we have Essence Reaver, Serpent's Fang, which gives you the full melee 50% proc, which applies on your ulti, right? So it'll refresh on your ulti over and over, cross map globally, that Serpent's Fang. If you have Corrupting Potion, I think Corrupting Potion also refreshes that effect as well. And Corrupting Potion in itself is a tick. So just think about, that's 5-6 seconds at least that you're reducing current shields and future shields on Gangplank with just your ultimate alone. Really, really strong, really broken, in my opinion. Next up, we have Mortal Reminder. You get the movement speed from Zeal, getting you to 417 movement speed, and also getting more crit. Next, we go in Prowler's Claw instead of Infinity Edge, because if you go Infinity Edge, you're sitting on the last item as a longsword, which is much more awkward than building Prowlers, and then getting that extra 10 lethality from these 2 items, and then also getting a cloak from Infinity Edge as the last item, which is very strong. And then we have a fun AP Gangplank build that I'll probably try it out. And then we have the specific Tryndamere lane. This is the specific Tryndamere matchup that I take only versus a Tryndamere. We've got Sheen, Warden's Trinity, either completing Frozen Heart if you need it, or just going straight into Anathemas or Randuins. This is really up to you and to decide the game state that you're in. And then 4 fun items like Thornmail and then Titanic Hydra, just always generally good items. You could even put in a Death Stance here. I kind of forgot that, but you definitely can go. And you could definitely go, what's the other item I mentioned? Demonic Embrace. But generally versus Tryndamere, these 3 items I would say are necessary to making sure he is crippled and taking his turret in front of him. On that note, that is all the items you need to know for Season 12. Alright, next up, let's show you guys exactly what mechanics Gangplank has. So starting off, we're just going to do a normal barrel. Here, press Q on it. Pretty standard stuff. Second barrel, you can auto it. You can Q the barrel. Next combo we have is the triple barrel combo. So the way you do this combo is by placing 1 barrel, placing the second barrel, and then while you're queuing the first barrel, you place the third barrel. So watch this. I'm going to queue the first barrel and then place a third one here. So again, 1 barrel here, second barrel here. I'm going to queue the first one and then I'm going to place the third one. You could also combine this with a flash to get more range. Same concept, queue the first one, flash third. Mechanic, another mechanic you could do is a 1 part. So 1 part Phantom Barrel, double barrel EQE, whatever you want to call it. So here's how you do this barrel. This is the barrel that I am most known for doing a lot of my games, but this is how you do it. So you queue at max range, right? So let's go at max range and let's queue. Alright, so I know my range is like right here. This is my max Q range, right? So let's walk up, queue. Okay, I know my range on my barrel now, and my Q. While you're in Q animation, place the second barrel. Ready? While you're in animation, place the second barrel. Boom. Beautiful. Alright, let's try this again. First barrel placed, we're going to go for queuing this one, and then we're going to place the second barrel. Let's go. Beautiful. You could do this combo in any direction. As long as you have the timing on the first barrel right, it doesn't matter where you place the second barrel. So you can do it backwards. You can do it forwards. You can do it right in front of one barrel. And you can just do like complete off angles. Lots of fun that you could have with this combo. It's very hard for them to out-time you. If you were to practice a combo, I would say triple barrel is most likely your best bet. Very, very strong combo, and they can't react to it, and it covers a lot of distance. Here's another variation of doing the one-part Phantom Barrel EQE combo. You're going to stand on the rim of the outside of your barrel, you're going to Q, you're going to flash out, and you're going to place the barrel. So again, stand on the rim. Stand on the rim. Flash out. Just like that. Not really much use for it, to be honest with you. It's mostly just for looks. But very niche circumstances where it can be useful. Next mechanic I'm going to show you is sheen stacking on barrels. So sheen stacking is another concept on Gangplank that a lot of people don't know about. So I'm going to explain it. I'm going to display it for you guys firsthand. So let's get rid of first strike first. Watch this. This is a normal Gangplank combo. 30-37 damage. Keep that number in your head. 30-37, right? Now we're going to do something a little bit different. First, we're going to wait for our first strike to go off. Watch what I do. I'm going to auto this barrel. Sheen just went on cooldown. I'm going to wait for Sheen to come off on cooldown, then I'm going to Q him. That did 33-13. So I got an extra 300 damage. Why? Excuse me. Why did this happen? Because of Sheen proccing. I'm going to show you the exact reason right now. So let's get rid of first strike again. Let's come back. Wait for first strike to go off. Here we go. Let's place a barrel. Or, sorry, hold on. Let's do this. This barrel did 1474. This did not have a Sheen proc on it. Get rid of first strike again. Keep that number in your head. 1474 without a Sheen proc. 1750 with a Sheen proc. Everything seems normal, right? But watch this. Watch this, watch this, watch this. I'm going to place a barrel down after I get rid of my first strike because I'm an idiot and I took first strike.
Concept of misery. More power.
And now watch this. I'm going to use my Sheen on another different barrel. Sheen's on cooldown. 1750. Despite my Sheen being on cooldown, I still did the same amount of damage as if my Sheen was up. Why does that happen? Because for some reason, Gangplank can throw away his entire Sheen proc. Look, you see how it's in my hand? Essence Reaver's in my hand right now. I have the effect. The next thing that I auto will have that additional damage. So if I put this on a barrel, that Sheen effect is gone and it's transferred inside of this barrel. This is how you can get extra 100, 200, 300 damage in between your trades and laning phase or even later on in the game. This is how you can get the maximum damage possible. So that's how you Sheen stack on Gangplank, and with that being said, let's move on to the next thing. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is actually passive resetting. So this is how much damage a barrel Q on the barrel, and then auto will do. Ready? Let's do it.
Mercy.
Oh, we gotta get rid of first strike. My apologies. I don't know how I'm such a noob every time. See it? Let's see this number, 3771. Let's do it again for good measure after we get rid of first strike.
I found my hate.
3771. Again, 3771. Now watch this. Now watch this.
Corpses waiting to drop.
5476. Let's just make sure this is accurate. 5476.
Their bodies will choke.
So here I have a barrel. I'm gonna auto him. Boom, 5476. So what happened? I got 2 passive procs. How did I get 2 passive procs off, you might be asking? So I'm autoing in between the explosion of my barrels. When your passive goes on cooldown, blowing up a barrel will refresh it. You see how it's up? So if I blow up 2 barrels while I'm auto attacking, that first barrel gave me the Sheen proc. Or sorry, it didn't give me the Sheen proc. It gave me the passive reset. And then the second barrel blew up, which gave me a second passive reset. Passive procs and GP stack. They do not refresh. It stacks. The damage does end up stacking. I've tested this multiple times, but if you want to go more in depth into all of these barrel combos and the intricate mechanics, just make sure you guys check out my barrel guide. It's about 2 hours long, and it took a lot of work to do. It took a lot of time to mentally prepare myself to go through all of that, but very detailed, very in-depth. So if you guys want to check that out, make sure you do. The last thing I'm going to go over here are barrel locations when you're looking to team fight. So one barrel location is a pretty simple one. I'm going to place a teammate here, and then I'm going to place target dummies here. Using a triple barrel combo, I can reach everyone. If I'm in the pit, I can also reach these people. Another way I can do this, over this dragon pit. Oops. Over here. If I wanted to reach someone who is in this bush fighting my teammate. If I wanted to reach someone about over here. Covers the entire river. Someone's coming from this angle. Just normal double barrel. From mid lane. Covers pretty much a good majority of the lane. In the river, over this barren wall. Typically, the carry will be around here, and then someone will be over here scouting you out. I can hit everyone. If I ulti ahead of time, like here, I force this guy in the pit. Barrel, barrel, barrel Q. There's no part that you can't reach. And if I'm over here, I could also do something similar from Fog of War, where they can't see me. Beautiful. Now, what's something else I can do? Another thing that you could do with Gangplank and barrels, I'm trying to think right now, actually. Those are pretty much the biggest spots where I like to go for barrels. And I think that just about wraps up what I like to do with my barrels and the barrel locations. Like I said, if you guys want more in-depth detail where I go into everything and show you guys literally everything, make sure you guys watch the barrel guide. It is very, very good, very, very long. And yeah, on that note, let's move into analyzing Gangplank's early, mid, and late game. Alright, and with the things that I've showed you guys earlier, I want to show you guys in clips and break it down kind of what you can do once you start to get a little bit proficient with GP. So this is me utilizing passive resets. So I'm 5'2" and 8, but there's a Mundo with full anathema chains on me, full health, and my items are not very high. So I use Prowlers there, full damage. And just like that, we killed him. It took 1800 true damage to kill him, and every barrel landing along with dodging a Q with Prowlers, but we managed to make it work. And this is the type of stuff that you can do on a much easier scale. This was much harder, but you could do this type of stuff on a much easier scale once you start to become proficient with GP. So that's an example of passive resetting. This is an example of using the Baron area where I told you could reach everyone from the pit, combining it with a, well, as you guys will see, a flash. But still, this is putting everything that I said into practice. Exact spot, by the way. Exact spot right here, where I place my first barrel, second barrel, third barrel, as I showed you guys in the practice tool, into an ulti, boom. Instant triple kill like that. We one-shot the enemy team, but the clip's not done yet. I'm using my Prowlers that I use, right? And then Jack shows up. And someone's at my doorbell. Jesus Christ. But yeah, this type of stuff can all be accessible to you guys with just a little bit of practice. Maybe not a little bit, it'll take a decent amount of practice, but it's the amount of, well, it's the quality of the practice, really. So this is just a combination of just using the spot that we know ahead of time, that we can reach all members of the pit, guarantees you a triple kill. Quadra or penta, that's up to you to like be smart about your spacing and things of that nature. But this triple kill anyone could do. This is me learning how to space versus a Darius and getting that early game lead to its max potential. Now you'll notice I don't have double cloak. This is because this is before I realized that. So first we'll watch it and then I will break it down for you guys. Beautiful. Alright, so you might be saying, whoa, what just happened, right? So here's what we do. Because I know that I'm playing versus a Darius, we go for a double barrel because he went for a plate. We slowed him down. I place another barrel. Now, Darius is one of the champions that has an auto reset. Knowing that he has an auto reset, I know he's going to auto W my barrel, so I preemptively walk to my barrel. I know he's going to auto it, so I instantly auto it before he can auto W. Then I Q him, and then I fake walk forward to make him hook me. And then I walk backwards. That way his hook doesn't land. Then afterwards, I know he has his W to slow me, so I orange the slow. I walk backwards to dodge his Q heal, and then I Q forward. Then I hit this barrel. I place a barrel here for movement speed if I'm gonna blow it up. But instead decide I'm in flash range, so I flash Q him, and he dies. Beautiful. This clip is an example of barrel placement. I'm telling you guys, everything that I told you guys in this guide so far, I do use on a day-to-day basis regardless of the elo. I use it all the time. That's using the triple barrel combo because it covers so much distance to reach 2 people in one. So we place the barrel here, second barrel, boom, triple barrel, just like that. Next game, the next clip, this is what you guys can do once you start to become proficient at GP. This is like almost like motivation. Why do I want to learn GP? Well, I'm going to show you guys in this clip. This is a full challenger game. I'm playing on a Smurf account. This is a challenger elo game. Maybe there's a few grandmaster, but it's definitely a challenger game. We get a one part. We're so fed that we just one-shot the opponent, right? But we're not done yet. We have a barrel here. We're waiting for their team to spawn. Boom. That's one barrel. Next one. Boom, right in their base, a quadra kill. That's an unofficial pentakill, I believe, because I already killed Ezreal in Challenger Elo. So absolutely insane what you can do with this champion. Next thing we have here is timing on barrel. How precise you can be with barrels and what the reward can be. So you go barrel, barrel. Nasus wins that one. I place another barrel in the bush. Boom, another barrel. Timing, just like that. With just some practice, good quality practice, you guys can, I'm confident that one of you guys can surpass me. Because I know that I'm not playing GP to its max potential, but I know that somebody, maybe one of you guys, one of my viewers, can play him to its max potential. So with that being said, I'm going to show you guys how I play Gangplank in a real game for early game, mid game, late game, using runes, right? Using the runes, using a grasp setup, first strike setup, and minion dematerializer setup. So I'll see you guys in a second. Alright, so we're playing versus Tryndamere, and the first thing that I'm already thinking in my head right now, playing versus Tryndamere, is getting touch on the first wave. If I can get touch on the first wave, it's really good for me. So that's where I'm going to position myself. I am playing on the main account. I'm playing in Challenger right now. So, yeah. We're playing in high elo. This is a Challenger Tryndamere and the main account, so we're chilling out here. I'm gonna check the bush for Tryndamere. No, he's not. Alright, then we're gonna take a little bit of aggro here just to get grasp going. 1, 2, there we go. Now we have grasp up. He'll most likely attack from this blue side. Yep. Do auto.
I can't have it.
There we go. We can reach another Q here. I should have S-keyed my auto, that way I could get my passive auto attack on the Tryndamere. We're still in a good spot. I also didn't mean to pop the other potion earlier, but we're fine.
waiting to drop. The sea has no memory, but I do. Everyone pays. Cruelty for all. Never trust a built rat. But it'll come back.
Good job. That was a good dive. I wanted to tank it first, but it's fine. It actually ended up working out perfectly that way because we both weaved in and out. It sucks that Yasuo's here though, because now what's going to end up happening is both waves are going to be shoved back. Yeah, Trend only had 3 CS. It actually sucks. This never happens in solo queue, where they actually swapped in a way where Yasuo was able to cover top at a perfect roam timing, and Tryndamere is able to get mid CS now. Like, that's wild. But we're still in a good spot. Waves pushing back. You can set up another slow wave crash. And that's what you want to do as GP. You just set up these little slow pushes. You make the enemy miss minions, and then you can either poke them under turret or just get a reset off.
A slow death will be their reward.
There we go. As long as we don't panic, we'll always be in a good spot there. Fiddlesticks flashed, and we ended up getting the double kill. Now we're gonna buy Warden's Mill, and then we're just gonna walk back to lane. Because of how we played the early game, we're set up in a way where we're kind of always in a win-win scenario. The Tryndamere was gonna die no matter what. Fiddlesticks killing me, that one was more of a surprise to me, honestly, but hey, we take those. And again, this isn't like gold, platter, dime, this is literally challenger. Well, you just force them into lose-lose scenarios. Even if Nidalee wasn't there to kill the Tryndamere, I would have recalled for either a Sheen or Double Cloth or a D-Blade. And all of those would have still given me a really huge lead in lane. So now I have a control ward. I'm going to place it a little deep. I'm not really that deep, but I'm going to use my Q in front of him. And now if he ever jumps on us, we should be able to kill him. Yeah, he's done.
I will carve my name in their skulls.
I know his E's on cooldown because he just used it in front of me. So it's just a free kill. A lot of people are like, well, that Tryndamere is inting. But then, like, when you go and VOD review their own games, they kind of just let them go. Like, they see a Vladimir use his pool, and then they do nothing about it. So it's important to keep note of cooldowns and to punish them.
Tell my tale.
And we get the cannon. And the game's over now.
Far from done.
What I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna take this wave. I'm gonna let this wave get right here. That way it slow pushes back to me and I freeze in the Tryndamere and the game's even more over for him. Because I'm so far ahead, I don't think I need to buy tier 2 boots right away. So I'm gonna opt into going Trinity Force. And we're chilling. So we're in a really good spot. After Trinity Force, I'm gonna look to go something like either Frozen Heart or Randuin's. Both of them are really good options. And then I might get an Anathema Chains and put them on Fiddlesticks because he's their only AP character. I get 600 health and I get a lot of haste.
I found my hate in the fire.
It's not every day that I go like a bruisery type of GP. But I do love the games that I can do it. This is a bad ward, by the way. I should have warded this bush right here. Because now if I get lane ganked, it's completely on me.
Betrayal
And feels like shit.
like salt on a wound.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the wave right here. Right here. Oh, man. I'm dead. You see? Because of my... Man, because of my bad ward. I mean, honestly, even if I ward here, I still die. He got me from this angle. He ulted from, like, here to here. So it's not like it would have mattered, but that sucks. I'm gonna buy boots, and I'm gonna... But again, Fiddlesticks goes top lane, so we punish bot lane. Tryndamere gets 600 gold, he gets the wave in, and he gets a bunch of plates, so it blows, but it is what it is. They're probably gonna try and re-gank me, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, Fiddlesticks shows here.
A turned back deserves a knife.
Interesting that he actually warded that.
Toss them to the sharks.
Okay, now I'm gonna run back top. For some reason, I think Tryndamere stayed. My flash is up in 10 seconds. Tryndamere used Ghost. And now this wave's gonna slow push back to me, and then we rinse repeat.
Another. My vengeance.
Here's what we do now. We do this, this. I'm a little scared of Fiddle, so I'm gonna recall right now. If Tryndamere is like 5 head, what he'll do is he'll stay here to make sure he can crush the wave.
With my ship.
I'm in a really bad spot. The guy's hard focusing me.
Don't get comfortable.
Cover top if Ken, please. Cover top. If not, the wave just slow pushes to me and then I freeze it again, but this time I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm going to try and ward here, and then I'm going to hug the top side of the wall. That way Fiddlesticks ults me from here. I don't take all the damage at once.
A slit throat is too painless.
I actually believe that was the real Fiddle. Not gonna lie.
Pistols and blades. Don't matter.
Never mind, we can't zone him off. The time that I can zone him off and actually make him really annoyed is actually the time that he has all 3 people on his team top.
4 months in a row.
They can only really play the top, so that's all he can do. DeVito, thank you, they're prime 4 months in a row. So now that I have Trinity Force, what I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna complete Frozen Heart, and then I'm gonna go Anathemas. Randuin's also, there's an argument that can be made for Randuin in this game, 100%. I gotta be careful here.
I can't have it. Trust nothing to
Oh.
chance.
He was just doing this blind, I guess. Wow. Wow. I did everything I could there. He used Flash and Ghost though. Yeah, I did everything I could there. He just used... If I hit the first barrel, I think I actually kill him.
Prepping for Korea trip, you should check out the Mexican Solarbacca. Best mechanics I've seen. Plays on land.
Oh,
His
okay.
off.gg is El Manuel.
But I do.
Thanks, dude. DV28193, thank you, the prime.
Cruelty.
What I'm gonna try and do now, I think, is just hold the wave for now. It sucks that Trinimir kind of got all the help in the world top lane. But, I mean, the only thing is, it's not that bad, because Trinimir's lead is only based off of 1v1. Like, he's never gonna be in a situation to team fight.
My time.
So, yeah, it kind of sucks for me, but it is what it is. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push this wave in top lane, because I think if Trinimir is not where the fight is, I think we win. And if he does rotate to the fight, I'm gonna make sure I'm level 11. Fiddlesticks is rotating. Even if he has Gale Force, I think I should be able to kill him. Yeah, I think I should be able to kill him. It's all about what we do, though. It's all about how we handle it. Alright, here's what we're gonna do now. I could buy a Frozen Heart, or I could buy Tabbies. I think I'm gonna opt for the Frozen Heart, because it's really good, versus all of their champions, honestly. Yasuo, Tryndamere. I think it's just a good item in general to buy. Hopefully this isn't warded, and I'll just hug top side. Because of a price Sorrel does? Well, even if it does, it doesn't matter. I'm not sure if it does, but it doesn't matter. Because the whole reason you apply passive is because you already have them in a chain. You already have them in a chain combo where you landed a barrel passive, then you land a barrel passive. And it's not hard at all. Because once you land one barrel, you can easily land the other 4 that you have. For crit GP, it's a little bit hard to get those barrels off, but for bruiser GP, that's always how it should be.
I lost my ship.
He has a bounty, guys. What? My Leona tunneled. If Leona just took the Hextech portal, she actually just killed him. Oh, that sucks. They let the 600 gold go away. No way, by the way.
Another. Take back what's mine.
Now I'm gonna start building towards my Frozen Heart. I could still build the Randuins, by the way, along with my Frozen Heart, but then it'd just be stacking up this passive, so I actually don't think that's smart. Nah, it doesn't sound that smart. I'm gonna need some form of anti-heal, I think, at some point. Not now, but at some point. I don't want to die there for no reason. Probably just gonna cycle Krugs. Cycle Krugs. Anathemas is such a cheap item that's underrated. It's a free exhaust for and you get 650 health, 20 haste. And this could be incorrect, but hey, I'm gonna say it anyways because I don't care. I'm pretty sure that with the reduced tenacity that the enemy gets from linking them with Anathema chains, I think your slow applies for longer. So if your barrel lasts for 2 seconds, so you just add, like, what is it, 30% more? 20% reduced tenacity, so yeah. You guys do the math, I ain't doing that.
Tides of dead will herald my return.
I have no idea where anyone is. Whatever, I'll die for it. It's not like I lose anything either. Yeah? Yeah, what's next, dude? Oh shit, that sucks, man. Unfortunately, you played Tryndamere, so...
Flesh carries weight. Don't get comfortable in my absence.
Alright, I have Anathemas on Fiddlesticks.
I rarely forget, and never.
I can 1v2 now. I can 1v2. I have a lot of haste. I have Tabby's Frozen Heart for the Tryndamere. And for the Fiddlesticks, I don't need MR. I just buy Anathemas.
Everyone pays. Keep a weather eye out.
I have so much true damage in my kit that I don't actually need anything else. And I have my slows. He has no damage, by the way, because he bought Novori. Even if he buys LDR, it helps him a little bit, but he's doing a lot less damage for sure. I only need like 5 more seconds and I get the exhaust, the free exhaust. The best thing my team could do for me is just ward for me. Anything else they do is useless.
My vengeance will be bloody.
I'm thinking about the next item I'm gonna buy, and I think it's gonna be Ravenous Hydra.
Mercy sank with my shield.
I'm going to Nexus. Make a play soon. Trindazar. Good. Good. Very good. Okay. Really good. Good job. Alright, next thing I'm gonna do, honestly, I think the best thing I can do for if I'm getting... No, I think Tiamat's the best. I think Tiamat's the best, and I buy either Titanic or Ravenous, or I could buy Zonia's right now. Either one of any one of those options are really good for me. I'm actually leaning more towards Zonias right now, and then maybe Demonic Embrace as the last item, because everyone's gonna have those HP bars. It makes me tankier, I get more health, I get more AP. I like the purchase a lot.
A slit throat is too painless.
Okay. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm actually gonna leave this. I'm gonna leave this wave. That way I can stack up a bigger wave.
Far from done killing.
Alright, I have 76 AP. I'm doing true damage with my ultimate right now. We're doing really good. Wait my split bots. I mean, they're just dead. They're fighting on GP ults and Rumble ult. Good, Leona stun. Good job. Alright. Finn did 1.7k through exhaust. Frozen Heart's on cooldown. I'll fix it. Come here. There we go. Look how easy that was.
I'll hack my way back to Bilgewater.
Look how easy that was.
The sea.
Oh, I don't care. I will murder them. If you're gonna do it, then fight. Come on! Here we go. This is what I want. Next one? Come on, can you time this one? Oh, you couldn't. Hey. Let's go. And goodbye. Alright, we should be able to end now. Trinamir has no ultimate. Good. Good job, team. Good job, team. We end. I think we end here. I guarantee you, we did the most damage on our team, or second most damage. Who did he give Anathemas? Fiddlesticks. Now, my Anathemas did 0 damage, but I still got a lot of value out of the health and the haste I got, in addition to my Frozen Heart. And Fiddlesticks was kind of forced to play off away from me. Because if Fiddlesticks ever played on me, then I would just kill him too. Boom. Boom. I think our laning phase was a lot better that game. I did 24k damage. Yeah, so I did way more than the most damage, right? And this is me going full tank, by the way. And then... Shut up, it's not a video. Shut up. Damage taken, I took the second most on my team. Trinamir only took more because he literally can't die. Self-mitigated was super high. And then total damage to turrets. Ezreal actually had more. Huh? We take it. Are you guys interested by checking OPGG? No, sorry. I don't want to do OPGG right now. Not right now. Stop pretending it's not a video. True. You know what? You're right. They stayed in fountain instead of trying to defend because they gave up. They lose. Also, chat, let me show you guys something. I'm going to show you guys something right now. Let me show you something, chat. Oh. Dude.
Words mean nothing.
It sucks that I'm not going to get path towards early to be covered, but it is what it is. We move on. Alright, so here we are again. We're playing in Challenger. This is the main account. We're against Tony top lane. I think he's at like 1 point something KLP. I don't even know this season. Everyone's like 1100, 1200 LP, except me. And here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna look for him to see if he's in a bush. First, we're gonna walk this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. He's not there. Auto the minion once. It's weird that he's not fighting for Prio, by the way. This is a very important matchup to have Prio in early.
Tears will salt the ocean.
I trolled, but it's fine. I should never get hit by his Q bar. Right now I'm just trying to space max range. Q, run away. I'm gonna look to crush on the 4th wave maybe.
Mercy sank with my ship. That's the way.
Beautiful Q. There's the Q as well, right there.
They have no concept of misery.
Didn't get my grasp up, which is a big mistake. But because I could have had my control ward. See, this is the scenarios where Biscuits is really trash, right? Because I have all of mine up. But it's like that's only happening really because this guy stinks. Like for level 1 at least. He did not fight me level 1. He gets the Croshin, but I get Sheen.
The sea has no memory, but I do.
I should be able to find... There's opening to kill.
Bones will splinter.
Nice, good solo kill.
One slash, ear to ear. Keep a weather eye out. Never trust a built rat.
Good solo kill. I thought about going for the Q, but then I realized I didn't need it. Or 153, I think they're prime.
Betrayal stings like salt on a wound.
I buy Ruby because it increases the damage I do with Grasp. It also allows me to take more ballsy trades with Vladimir. It increases my orange heal because it's based off percent missing health. And then I buy Boots just to close the gap. Excuse me.
A slit throat is too painless.
Oh, that was bad. That was bad. He's about to get a Q off. Yeah, that was really bad.
Hits the spot.
There we go.
Herald my return.
There we go. He's nervous.
I'll hack my way back to Bilgewater.
I missed the grasp. Missed the Q there too.
Burn it all down to my
Come! No ghost, no ghost. Come! Come now!
Everyone pays. Seas and men betray. Pistols and blades don't matter to me.
Kind of did that bad actually. I was trying to control one to get him to use his pool, but he didn't use it. Wait.
Cruelty
Actually?
for all.
His wave's fucked, his wave's fucked. His wave's fucked, his wave's fucked. Thank you. Sorry, jungler. Oh, I'm a noob, I got baited into that.
Bloody. Everyone pays.
Whee!
Feed them their fingers.
Calculated though. Now my jungler gets a kill. I don't care. Hey, I don't care. What it is what it is. Let him know I don't care, man. What's up, Rotero? Oh no. Oh no. My bad.
Flesh carries weight.
My bad. I don't care. Hey, I don't care. Honestly, that's Giga Chat if you ask me. Get solo kill, give kill to enemy jungler, get your jungler a kill, refuse to elaborate.
Reborn of salt and blood.
That is absolutely Giga Chad. I don't care about the play. I just want Trinity Force and I want to be able to get back on this wave.
Captain can't have any blind spots.
Wonder why. Oh my gosh, he barely survived. He was actually so close to dying there. He was really close to dying.
Mercy.
Oh, this is really good, by the way. Yeah. Yeah, I'm dragging the wave. Yeah. Are you upset? Yeah. Yeah, goodbye, Tony Top. Yeah, get out of here, jungler. See, refuse to elaborate any further, chat.
Will be their reward.
Refuse to elaborate. No! Okay, whatever, it's fine. It's time to get the turret anyways. Oh, I just used orange in front of him. I'm a rat. I mean, even if I had orange, I don't live because I don't have any barrels, but... Sag, smooch. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to piss this guy off, and I'm going to go Anathema Chains. If I build Maw, he'll still do damage, but... Nah, I kind of want Anathema Chains. Because Silas is not going to do damage to me. Here's the way I see it. Silas is not going to do damage. I build Anathemas. I put it on Vladimir. I build Death Stance. Yes. Because if I build Maw and Death Stance, I have no HP at all. But if I build Maw, or sorry, if I build Anathemas, I get health, haste, and then when I complete Death Stance, I also get haste and I get armor, and I get like fake MR. Silas can't kill me, I think, and I don't think he'll ever be strong. Oh, shit. Okay, well, I have to go Maw.
Turned back deserves a knife.
Ah, shit. Ah, that was honestly my bad, guys. Sorry. That's honestly my fault. Sorry. That was my bad for talking. I'm still gonna go through with my plan because I already committed, but that's a bit unfortunate. Oh, that was a good timing.
I rarely forget.
Okay, I crashed the wave. It's good enough.
Hits the spot.
I think crashing the wave is good enough, to be honest. We chill now. You know what? I want some help here.
The sea has no memory, but I do.
Kill! Kill! We need to kill him. I know he's here. He's sitting in a bush. Actually, no, he recalled to buy a proto belt. He has enough gold for it. Yeah, he definitely has enough gold for it. My minions do more damage than his minions.
Never trust a build rat.
Losable! No. Oh, okay. Oh, I got rolled. And this guy's dead too now. Oh my gosh, we might have just lost the game, actually. Senna? Yeah, I mean, I would have lived if Senna didn't ult, but still, honestly, I deserve to die either way. Honestly, I deserve to die either way. I really don't want to sell my D-Blade. I feel like my D-Blade has been such a huge help. And I don't want to sell Corrupting because I like the movement speed that I get. It's only 4%, but it does add up. It does actually help a lot.
Betrayal stings like salt on a wound.
I think whatever, I'll just clear 1 or 2 waves, recall by Anathemas. But then I have to wait an entire minute for it to stack completely, which is not very epic. Oh, he mistimed it. Well, and he missed a kill. Alright, good. Vladimir showed on the map. I really need him to keep showing. Got him. Got him in the nick of time. I will be top 4 dragon, keeping Vlad there. Surely you win 4v4 with GPR, guys. Okay, awesome. I mean, surely my team can win 4 versus 4 with, you know, Gangplank ult, so it's like 4v5. So surely my team should win a 5 versus 4. And we have Diana Yasuo combo. Yeah, no, sure, no, we got it. Yeah, we win. Surely. There's no way. There's no way it gets thrown. Nah, no way, no way, no way. It won't happen. Surely it's not gonna happen. Relax. Oh jeez. Ah, jeez. Oh no. No! Stop it. Stop what you're doing, guys. Absolutely shit on, by the way.
In my favor.
No, they did not. By the way, guys, look at Anathema's value, by the way. I got 500 damage reduced, but not on top of that, I also have 700 health. You know what I mean? Dude, that health makes such a big difference. It feels so good to have. Alright, now I have Executioners. I could buy Lucidity Boots, or I could buy like MR or something right now. I could do either one. I really could do either one. I could buy Tabs too if I want them. Maybe for the Hecarim Ezreal Senna. It's not that bad. Or I could just buy Lucidity. I feel like Lucidity is a little too L9, but it's fucked what I do. I feel like these are just too broken. 25 MR is nothing.
I'll burn it all.
Nah, I'm gonna get Tabs only because the other items I build are gonna give me haste, and the more haste you have, the less valuable it is. So right now, haste is nice, and if I bought those Lucidity, I would go to like 38, 39%, right? But then my next item is gonna be like either Gangplank, or it might be a Ravenous Hydra, right? So now, all that haste is only bringing me up by like 2% CDR, when I could be reducing damage by a lot more. You know what I mean? So it's not actually worth it. Nice.
Another. Send them running.
There you go. Goodbye, buddy. How much did Executioners reduce there? Oh, 1236. Wait, how long have I had it for? Look at this Gangplank ult, by the way. They're split up. They're split up. Ezreal has to run into it. 800 damage on that guy. Hecarim's dying. Beautiful. And the Vlad and Senna can enter the fight. Beautiful. Anything machine is so broken. General Sniper, you should see. I played last game against Shunamir. This game we got 2 solo kills, so that was actually pretty good. But yeah, Anathema's is broken. I think it should be built like 3rd. I built it 2nd this game, but I think you should always build it 3rd. I think it's such an OP 3rd item. I built it 2nd because I wanted to build something like Death Stance 3rd.
My vengeance.
I think I'm gonna build Gangplank right now, just to get that extra health. If Vladimir pushes this out a lot, I can solo kill him. My Anathemas are on him. I'll try. Good.
Reborn of salt and brine.
No, I timed it too. No. You won't kill me. I have anathemas. And guess what? I'm not even done yet. Push the turret.
It's a child's work.
Yeah, I'll fight. I'm ready to fight. Now what? Goodbye.
How they try.
Holy, that felt good. Let's go.
Psych with my
Woohoo! Alright, let's do this, and then we could buy a Hydra, or we could buy Zonia. I think I'm gonna go Zonia again. I really like Zonia.
death spit me out.
Jeez. Let's go. Big. Alright, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep pushing in the side lane. Not sure where, but we're just gonna keep pushing in the side lane. Probably top lane, to be honest. And now we have anti-heal max. We have anti-heal. We have anathemas on Vlad still. We got stopwatch. I think the stopwatch is mostly going to be for any burst damage. Like maybe Vladimir ults and then he's trying to charge up his E while he's in his W. Then I'll just stopwatch that. But in general, it's a pretty nice item to have. I actually want to bait as many people top as I can. I wanna limit test it. Like actually limit test.
Crying won't do it.
Okay. Good job. What's up, Ferguson? Let's go, man. Take. Alright, and moving into the matchup guide, you guys are going to see the runes on your screen for every single matchup. And let's get into it. So playing versus Aatrox as GP, it's good to get tier 1 boots early, and the reason for that is so that you can dodge his W and dodge his QE way easier. It allows you to trade back. A lot of people don't know this, but as Gangplank, movement speed is actually damage, and this applies to other champions as well. The reasoning for that is because you can dodge skill shots and weave more Qs or barrels into your combos in lane. And that allows you to get little micro edges, which ultimately turn into 10 CS leads, 20 CS leads, 30 CS leads, kill leads, and allows you to snowball, because the later the game goes as Gangplank, the more out of control it is. So it's good to keep those games nice and tight early, 15 to 25 minutes. And playing versus Aatrox, you're going to need those tier 1 boots very, very early on. Sheen, Executioners, and yeah, level 7 is pretty much when you can kill him. You always take Ignite into Aatrox. Don't forget that. You always take Ignite into Aatrox because his healing reduction, and typically Aatrox is also taking Ignite in the top lane as well, and if they don't, they're missing out. And yeah, as for the Aatrox matchup, pretty straightforward, honestly. Just getting those boots really does make the difference in laning phase. Alright, let's go to the next matchup. Alright, and playing versus Akali. So Akali is a matchup that you can actually bully very, very hard early, and you can take Grasp or First Strike into this matchup. You'll see the runes on your screen here, and pretty much the way you play versus Akali, you bully her early, level 1, level 2, you're walking up. Whenever you have your passive, you auto minion, you walk up to Q her. She falls behind very, very, very easily, very quickly. Now, a lot of people struggle versus Akali. They say, but Solar, when I hit level 6, I just die to Akali. How can I prevent that? And the answer to that, I would tell you, is build a Hex Drinker. A lot of people don't do this because they think they need to complete a full item. They need to complete Essence Reaver, Trinity Force before they actually can build defensively. That's not the case. So there's two different build paths you can go to not die to Akali. There's the more Giga Chad healthy route, which is Doran's Blade and Ruby Crystal. Even if you're going Essence Reaver, you just send that Ruby Crystal, and she'll never have full damage to kill you. Or you can go into the guaranteed route, which also gives you damage, but the only problem with going Hex Shrinker into eventually Mob Mortius is that you miss out on that crit slot. So if you're going Essence Reaver Trinity, it's going to be a little bit more awkward, but it guarantees that you cannot get 100 zeroed by Akali. So if you struggle in this matchup, go Hex Shrinker, always take Ignite into Akali, and Grasp for First Strike is completely up to you. Next matchup, Akshan. This is a matchup that a lot of people struggle with. You can actually go, believe it or not, First Strike or Grasp into this. Now, with First Strike, you can do either the rune page that I go, where I go Dematerializer and I play to one-shot the backwave level 7 and far, or you can be a little bit of a Giga Chad and try and kill him. So with Akshan, what you're going to want to do is when you place a barrel down, every Akshan will double auto your barrel. So what you have to do is, as you see them walking forward to auto your barrel, place the second barrel as they're walking up. That way, when they auto your first barrel, your second barrel is not only already placed, but you also have auto prio on that barrel. So let's say you have a barrel and it has full HP, right? It's 3 bars of HP. As Akshan's walking up, you place the second barrel, your barrel still has 3 HP, Akshan tries to double auto it, and now it goes from 2 HP to 1 HP, right? And you get him before his second auto attack goes off. So he gets the first auto, blow up the barrel, and his second auto attack never goes off, and that's pretty much how you beat Akshan. That's pretty much the only difficult thing that's about him. Don't try to fight him level 1 or level 2, because you will get destroyed. His base damage is very, very, very high. Other than that, you should not be struggling in this matchup. I think it's a fake counter to Gangplank, similar to how Aurelia oftentimes is a fake counter to Gangplank, in the sense that GP who knows what he should be doing, or knows fundamentally how the game works, how League of Legends works, can win this matchup. As for build, you don't have to build anything defensive, you don't need to build anything aggressive. Pretty much, you just murder him. Pretty straightforward matchup. Next up, we have, let's see, the next matchup that people play against. I guess I'll briefly cover Annie. So versus Annie, or pretty much any off-mage meta top lane, off-meta mage top lane, you always want to take Grasp and Ignite. And the reasoning for that is because these mages have very low HP, and they're stuck in the long lane. So top lane, because it's longer than mid lane, you can get frozen on, punished way easier for pushing a wave. You can get ganked. Your HP is way lower, so if you take one bad trade, you're kind of screwed for the entire laning phase. If you get counterpicked, you're screwed. So anytime you see like, whoa, I don't know what I'm playing against top lane, always take Ignite and Grasp. This especially goes for playing versus mages. It'll allow you to get early solo kills. You don't really need to build defensive against any of these mages, although you can do what we did into Akali and build a Hex Shrinker, and you will never die, and you will also hard win lane. Or you could go the Giga Chad route, as mentioned before, with the D-Blade and Ruby Crystal. So, yeah. Playing versus Annie, if you're against the Nivea, same story there. Azir. So Azir is a matchup that some people play against top lane and is very, very annoying, especially in higher elo. People play it as a counter to Gangplank. Some niche people play it as a counter to GP. So here's a rune page that you can go, as you can see on your screen. We're not going Grasp, because there's no point to take Grasp if you can't proc it anyways. So what we're going to end up doing here is take First Strike with Minion Dematerializer, take Free Boots, and you go Time Warp Tonic after that. And I would go Domination secondary with Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter. Now the reasoning for these runes, right, are pretty much to ensure that I just farm versus Azir. There is no counterplay to Azir, in my opinion. If you go Grasp and Ignite, you can maybe flip him misspacing, but I think instead of misspacing and hoping that he misspaces, just go up like 3k gold on him very early on. Sure, you're down 10 CS, but with your Q, with Cole, with First Strike, with your ulti, with Treasure Hunter, you're never actually going to be behind. You're going to be at the worst even. So don't try to ego this matchup. I would say you just take Dematerializer top lane or mid lane, and you could farm, and it's not as bad as a matchup as you might think it is. Next, we have Camille. Camille is one of the matchups that I do enjoy a lot. You can take TP, you could take Ignite as well. I personally would suggest Ignite in a lot of these matchups, simply because when you take TP, sometimes you tend to shoot yourself in the foot, especially in solo queue, and it's harder to get either solo kills or meaningful leads. Sure, you might have 10 or 20 CS lead, but that's not 30, 40, 50, and it's not even a kill lead, right? And Ignite tends to give you that 1v2 potential once you start getting better at Gangplank. GP is a champion that can 1v2 moderately easy with Ignite. So playing versus Camille, a lot of people don't know this, but Camille's W actually heals her. You might be saying, but Solar, I already knew that. Why are you saying that? But here's what people don't do, right? Versus Camille. So only the outer part of Camille W heals her. Meaning if you step inside of that cone of Camille's W, she will not heal. So it's good to predict that whenever you're trying to go for a Camille Q, assume that she will always go for a W back. And instead walk forward or walk backwards to bait out her W. So imagine you're going to go to Q her and then you just click backwards and then she'll probably waste her W. Or let's say that Camille is going to W you and you have auto attack the minion for passive movement speed. Walk inside of that cone of the W and then auto attack or Q her because she's an animation, she can't get her physical shield and she gets no heal up. Another tip versus Camille: always auto her with your passive before you use your Q. So whenever she gets her physical shield, never Q her, wait for it to run out. Instead, auto her only with your passive because true damage goes through her physical shield. Although many people don't know that for some reason, it does go through her shield. Very, 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 very nice and helpful. And then you could just Q her as she's running out or Q her when the shield runs down. Last tip playing versus Camille, I would say it's her E. It's her hook shot for sure. A lot of people don't know this, but when you play versus Camille, when you get hit by a hook shot and you're like, damn, I guess I'm dead. You can actually buffer your Q even when you're stunned. Even when you're hit by the Camille, you can buffer your Q so that when she goes on top of you, you blow up your barrel. Now, some good Camille players will E onto a wall and stay there and not E on you right away. They'll E at like the last second because they know that you're gonna blow up your barrel once they jump in. So the counter to that, I would say, is be patient. Just S key it on the barrel. So if you were gonna auto attack your barrel, you just auto attack your barrel, but S key it so it cancels it completely and it mindfucks the Camille as well. Your Q is probably the easiest way to out time her when she's going for that hook shot. Pretty much no reason to lose it. And when Camille's do go for an E in, what a lot of times what they'll do is they'll go like E, they'll Q a minion, then E in, Q2, and then W on the way out. But us being smart and watching the matchup guide, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna buffer Q in the barrel, and then after we buffer Q in the barrel, we're gonna orange instantly so that the stun goes away. Auto attack her, walk inside of her, right? So that her W never heals her. And because we blew up that barrel and we just out-timed her, we have a passive proc. That passive proc, we auto attack her with when she gets her physical shield. That way we're doing true damage to her the whole time. Then we either ult or just Q her when her physical shield runs out and she's dead. Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia is a matchup you definitely take Ignite and Grasp into, as I mentioned before, taking into those weird off-meta top lane mages. Very easy matchup, just rush tier 1 boots early, and it's a very, 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 very easy matchup to play. She's very squishy. I think if you land one barrel on her at any stage in the game, even without Sheen, she should just die. The matchup does get annoying, I would say, at level 6, maybe level 5. More like level 6. Similar to the Aatrox matchup, at level 6 it is annoying, but at level 7 you should be able to just kill her, or at the very least farm. It really is your choice as to what you do in this matchup. She doesn't really have any autonomy, meaning she doesn't have any choice in this lane. It really is up to you. Next up we have Cho'Gath. So Cho'Gath, you can take Grasp or First Strike. However, now that I'm thinking about it, I think First Strike is just the best rune overall versus Cho. A lot of people say Grasp for the scaling, but ever since the Grasp nerfs, that HP scaling doesn't mean anything, and the health you get back from Grasp is not as meaningful as it once used to be. It doesn't make Grasp obsolete. Grasp still does damage, but in terms of scaling, Grasp is not something that I would recommend into Cho'Gath or any other tank for that matter. Excuse me. I would highly recommend just First Strike. And you could either take Sorcery secondary with Transcendence and Gathering Storm, or you could take Domination with Treasure Hunter and either Eyeball Collection or Taste of Blood. Treasure Hunter is a very good rune, especially in these farm lanes, so it really is up to you if you want a stronger mid game or if you just want to ramp up like that. That is completely your choice. Next up, we have Darius, one of my favorite matchups to play against because it really is a skill matchup, but it's really not that hard once you start getting better at GP. I think Darius is one of those matchups where when you get better at GP, it's very rewarding to play because you get to show off your skill as a player for a few reasons. So early on, you want to auto that first minion of the wave, get Qs on this Darius, and you should be able to cheat or recall 9 times out of 10, either on the 3rd wave or the 4th wave. Early Sheen, you just sit on a barrel and then you hold your ground. A similar concept to versing any other melee champion that we'll get into later on, such as Garen or Renekton. You just sit on your barrel and you say, "Walk up, I dare you," and you Q him when he doesn't walk up because he'll be on the outskirts trying to get XP, or he walks up to your barrel and you auto him. Tier 1 boots, very, very important early, getting those dirt bags or getting those Ninja Tabai or those Lucidity boots, whichever you prefer. As long as you have some form of boots early, Darius cannot kill you. Always take Ignite into this matchup. Bone plating, I think, is a must, whether you go first strike or grasp. I would probably recommend grasp. Definitely need bone plating so that when he does pull you, you are well equipped. Pretty standard matchup. If you really do struggle with spacing versus this guy still, buy a Zeal after you finish your tier 2 boots after your Essence Reaver or Trinity Force, whichever one you choose to go, and it'll be very easy. You get that extra 30 movement speed along with Time Warp Tonic amplifying that. That's like 42 movement speed, and he'll be at like 390 and you'll perma be at 430. Pretty easy matchup, I would say. It's definitely a good matchup that shows you're getting better at GP. Next matchup, we have Dr. Mundo. So like we said, we're never taking Grasp, but first strike I would recommend very, very highly. And I would say you can either go Dematerializer if you want to farm, or you can try and be interactive and you can go Stopwatch, Futures Market, and first strike. And and first strike. Secondary runes, I would probably recommend 9 times out of 10. You just go Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter. Again, those get you a lead early, and they can get you to Essence Reaver and Executioners much faster, which is a very nice spike. Just being able to AFK farm, get some gold from being in your lane, and also ulting across the map to get more gold is really, really OP. Draven. Draven is a lane that is actually one of the hardest counters to GP in the game. You cannot out-trade him at pretty much any point of the game. Not from level 1 to the end of the game. One of GP's hardest matchups in the game that nobody plays, actually. And yeah, it's very, 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 very difficult. I would say anyways, you still run first strike and you go Dematerializer. There's no other rune you should take. I don't think you should ever try to trade with this guy. I think you just farm it and you drop it. Because if you try to ego on him and you go Grasp with like Ignite and Biscuits, I think you'll just lose. I truly, truly, truly do believe you will just lose to Draven, as he has a BF sword level 1 and there's just no trading him even with Sheen. Fiora. Fiora is a matchup that I've experimented for a very long time, as changes have come through every single season, and I experiment against good Fioras, bad Fioras. Every Fiora will use their parry differently. Every single Fiora will use the parry differently. Some will parry your auto attack with your passive, some will parry your Q. 99% of them will parry your barrel combined with a QW. So how do we counter this? We see a Vital on our side and we are sitting on the barrel. Assume that Fiora is going to use a QW or just Q in, and you auto attack your barrel. You never Q your barrel, you auto attack that barrel, juke to the side to get distance because she's already Q'd in, and then you Q her. That way, if she parries your Q or your barrel combo, you've already sidestepped, or you have enough time to sidestep after you Q. Runes. The runes that you see on your screen are the runes that I would take versus Fiora if I'm not egoing. If I'm playing for like content, I would take First Strike. I highly recommend you don't play for content in your games and you just win. And you go Grasp, Ignite, Biscuits. Definitely the best runes versus Fiora, even if she takes Grasp herself. Because some Fioras will not just want to lose lane with Conqueror, they will try to fight back with Grasp. However, Biscuits is needed instead of Futures Market. And you take those runes and you will beat Fiora every single game along with Ignite. Garen. Garen's kind of like what Garen's kind of like Fiora's dumb younger brother, to be honest. It's like, it tries to do all the things that Fiora does, just worse. So, playing GP versus Garen is very easy. You go first strike, sorcery secondary, or domination secondary. Again, that is completely up to you. What I would do is probably take Treasure Hunter with Eyeball Collection. Because Taste of Blood doesn't really net you anything, because once you trade with Garen, it's probably going to be an all-in trade, or it's going to be a trade heavily in your favor to the point that you don't need Taste of Blood. So Eyeball Collection for the better scaling, I would recommend. Don't take DMAT, try to fight this guy. We're going Stopwatch, First Strike, Futures Market, Time Warp Tonic. Very, very simple, very, very nice, and this is the matchup that I think every GP needs to be able to win. Every decent GP, every player who wants to know how to play GP, you should be able to beat Garen. Like, if you struggle on the first time, it's fine, but this matchup is the very definition of standing your barrel. You place a barrel down and you say, walk up, I dare you. The enemy either doesn't hit the barrel and they're standing at a far distance and they can't do anything to you, or they try to walk up, you hit them with the barrel, you hit them with the Sheen Q on top of that, and they're dead, or poked out a lane. Very, very simple matchup. Gangplank. So if you're ever playing GP versus GP in a Norms, it really is just whoever cues the other person harder. Just mash your keyboard. Honest to God, mash your keyboard. Maybe a skin gap, to be honest, too, because Special Forces GP is very skinny and base Gangplank's kind of fat. So I think it's a weight gap whenever you play GP versus GP. Gnar. Playing Gangplank versus Gnar is, well, it can be difficult. Actually, it can be difficult. I've seen GP players struggle. This is a matchup that you need to know how to play League of Legends for. And what do I mean by that? You need to know how to space. You need to know Gnar's strengths. You need to know your weaknesses. And you need to know how to play around timings. So what are some important timings? Sheen, level 7. Your jungler's timings. Setting up your jungler to gank this Gnar. Punishing him when he's mini. Knowing how to punish him when he's at 70% rage bar. How to punish him when he's at 80%, 90%. And how to play when he's completely in Mega. So a lot of times when they're in Mega Gnar, they'll throw their Q and they have to pick it up. Not many people know this, but Gnar's Q when he's Mega is like 15 to 20 seconds, but when he picks it up, it's like 80% reduced or 70% reduced. So it goes on like a 5-second cooldown. So when he throws that Q, try to just sit on that and Q him as he's walking up to it. This is a matchup that I think gets really playable at level 7. You do win the early game. You can go Grasp or First Strike. If you're looking to win your games in solo queue, I would say this is a matchup that you maybe dodge, because it's not a matchup that's very easy to take advantage of. It's hard to lose this matchup, but it's also hard to get a true lead in this matchup. And any matchups in solo queue that negate you, I would say are better off just dodging overall, because then the game will be in your team's hands. That being said, Ignite, TP, Grasp, First Strike, completely up to you. I vary every single time I play versus this champion. It does depend on how I feel. You can go the First Strike page, you can go the Material page, you can go Treasure Hunter, you can go Grasp. Pretty much everything works into Gnar. Even Fleet Footwork works into Gnar. Gragas. Gragas is a matchup I highly suggest you don't take Grasp into. I think First Strike is always just the better room. And this is where you would always take Taste of Blood secondary and Treasure Hunter no matter what. The sustain you get is nice. The gold you can get across the map is nice. Gragas can't kill you. Essence Reaver, you do end up one-shotting him. It's hard for him to kill you. Now, here's something that I do versus Gragas, right? Whenever you're against Gragas, you know how we talked about earlier with Camille Wing you as you walk forward? Well, Gragas is going to E forward when he sees you walk forward. So I would say walk forward, get in the range, insta sidestep to the side. Don't walk backwards because he'll still hit you. But if you're at a corner of a wall, right, you walk up and then you walk to the right or walk to the left and assume that Gragas is going to E in. You just imagine, if I'm Gragas, do I have range in this scenario? And that should answer your question and make laning phase ultimately a lot easier for you. Next up, we have the Graves matchup. Graves is a matchup that is similar to Fiora. You don't really want to ego it. Go Ignite, go Grasp, take Biscuit secondary, and you just kind of trade Q for Q. and hide behind your minions. Try not to give him his fleet footwork proc because he gets more off of hitting champions than he does off of hitting minions. As far as I know, fleet is getting nerfs, and I think the nerfs might already be out. I'm not entirely sure, but at the time of this video, I believe fleet footwork is nerfed and Graves gets less health. He doesn't get Hullbreaker either, so sucks for him. This is probably one of the only matchups where your build will change from Essence Reaver, to be honest. I would probably go Triforce into Graves. I would go Triforce and Hullbreaker, and the reason for that is to make him suffer. Graves is one of those matchups that I just kind of want to always make suffer, and I know I'm guaranteed to win the matchup every time. I go Triforce into Hullbreaker and into crit afterwards. That way you negate all of his lethality with said Hullbreaker by getting 30 armor. You also get health. You get Triforce HP as well, and you could always outduel him. So Triforce Hullbreaker, definitely the build. Always take Grasp, take Biscuits, Ignite, and pretty much just a battle of queuing him. Battle of sustain. Gwen matchup. Gwen matchup is actually one that I very like First Strike into. A lot of people might take Grasp into Gwen, but I believe the only thing you need from the rune tree of Resolve is Bone Plating. What's the reasoning for this? Gwen is not a champion that can just EQ you for poke without taking an auto and a Q back or a barrel back with Q. Because if she's in range to Q, she's in range of barrel, even if her W is active, unless she walks out of her W and is at the very edge. But that's a very hyper-specific scenario, so I'm not even going to get into that. I would say versus Gwen, you can bully her early, easily with Corrupting Potion, take First Strike, take Stopwatch, Future's Market, Time Warp Tonic. Secondary, always take Resolve, take Bone Plating and Overgrowth. Overgrowth is a nice scaling rune for mid-game, gets you a free Ruby Crystal, which is 400 gold. And Bone Plating is always nice to have versus Gwen because they typically auto. You usually get full use of Bone Plating. Very nice at every stage in the game. And I would take Ignite into this matchup because it's very reliable to cheat or recall versus Gwen. Although TP can also be taken and you'll have similar results. I just like playing for either the 1v2 or for guaranteed solo kills. So definitely take Ignite. As for items that you build, I don't think you need anti-heal early. I really don't think you need Executioners or Bramble. I think Gwen is pretty weak versus GP. And a lot of it does come down to predicting when she's going to E onto you. But also, Gwen eats Qs she takes it rough. Like 3 Qs and she's begging to go back to base. So, not a difficult matchup at all. I would say similar to the Darius matchup. It is a different form of skill in a sense. And yeah. Next matchup, I'll briefly go over Hecarim. Hecarim's a very easy matchup. Always go Grasp, Ignite, Biscuits. Very easy matchup. Once you get Sheen, you one-shot him. Even before level 1 to level 18, you always kill him. You always just win. Just be careful of his W, because when he does use his W, he will heal a lot. So I would say don't fight him in his W, because even through Ignite, he will heal a lot. Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger is a matchup I would take First Strike into, because although he is a mage, he's a control mage. I think that's how you use the word, right? He's a control mage. And when he places his turrets, there's really not much contesting them until you have like Sheen, double longsword, and at that point Grasp is obsolete. So there really is no point in taking Grasp versus Heimerdinger. Definitely take First Strike. I wouldn't take Dematerializer. I would probably take Biscuits and Futures Market. Secondary, I would take Domination with Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter. Treasure Hunter is such an OP rune. I definitely think it needs to be taken, especially on Gangplank. And the way you play this matchup is kind of just not trading, to be honest. It's really hard to trade versus Heimerdinger because he has complete autonomy in the lane, which again means the right to choose, the right to... He has full control. He has full control of this lane and there's really nothing you can do about it. You probably fall 10 to 20 CS behind in this matchup, or you go even up until you get Sheen and double longsword. Sheen and one longsword should one-shot his Q turrets. And what that ends up doing is it unlocks to you pretty much an avenue of options, because now you're like, okay, I just killed all of his turrets. Now it's time for me to poke him back. Now it's time for me to kill him. If you're looking for when to trade, when to limit test in this matchup, level 7. Level 7, Sheen Longsword, boots optional, but pretty much needing boots. Sheen Longsword boots, along with First Strike, and I think you should be fine in this matchup from that point onwards. Alawi. Alawi's a matchup that is very, I would say, easy for Gangplank that a lot of people misunderstand. Alawi's a champion, well, specifically speaking versus GP, that is completely reliant upon her E. And Gangplank happens to be a champion with a lot of movement speed, slows in this kit, and a lot of potential for mind games and outplay. It's easy to get prio early. I would take Ignite and First Strike into this matchup. Yeah, I would take Ignite and First Strike into this matchup. You don't need Resolve into this matchup, although you could take it. I would take Domination secondary with Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter. And pretty much Alawi, whenever she jumps in, as long as you dodge her E, you will win the matchup. It doesn't matter, level 1 through 18, you will always win. The second you see her use her E, fight her. It's very easy to sidestep her tentacles because they're very slow, that even if you react to them late, you still should have enough time if she W's a minion, W's you, to sidestep her passive tentacles. Her Q, yeah, it's pretty easy to sidestep as well, although you can get hit by it. Her ulti, combined with her E, you never fight it. You never fight Alawi whenever she lands an E on you and she ults afterwards. You will never win that fight. It's unwinnable. Too much damage, and she's going to heal whatever damage you do to her. That's why I say it is very important that you are able to dodge her E, which is her soul grab thing. Tips to dodge that: use your Time Warp Tonic whenever you're fighting her to get that movement speed. Buy boots early, similar to that Darius matchup. And yeah, spacing is key. Spacing is key. If you know how to space, this will feel like when people lock in Alawi, you're like, yes, a free win. Next matchup, Aurelia. This is one of those fake counters I was talking about before that people, I think, over exaggerate how difficult the matchup is, especially in competitive environment. Ignite or TP is completely optional. You'll net the same results. Obviously, Ignite will make it easier, especially in solo queue. But if this is like a competitive GP versus Aurelia, you have complete autonomy of the wave as Gangplank level 1. You should never be leashing. You auto the first minion of the wave, you get a slow push going, you crash on the 3rd or 4th, and at that point you're either looking for a dive on the Aurelia, you're poking her out of lane, or you're just cheater recalling after that. Pretty standard stuff. After you recall, you should have a Sheen, and if she pushes the wave, you can TP and freeze, and as long as you have Grasper, First Strike, secondary Futurist Market, obviously, and Time Warp Tonic, pretty standard stuff. You just drag the wave away from a bush. So a lot of people drag the wave to the bush because they want to lose aggro, but I would say take the aggro and stay away from the bush in this matchup. That way you have complete vision of when she's going to queue in. Every Aurelia, similar to Fiora, has a tell. I would say it's easier to tell when an Aurelia is going to go in than a Fiora, because Fiora could choose, but Aurelia, when she sees a low health minion, that's her only opportunity, is when she sees that low health minion. So as long as you have a barrel preset, it's very easy to just auto attack the barrel as you see Aurelia walking to the minion wave. There's only two things. She can only queue in. She will only queue in. So this matchup is really not that hard. Bramble Vest or Executioners is completely up to you on your preference, even if you have Ignite or TP. Always go Bramble or Executioners very early. It's very good in this matchup. What would I go? I'd probably go, if I fell behind, I think I would build Bramble Vest, but if I'm even or ahead, I'd always go Executioners, because Executioners has healthier build paths, leading you to Mortal Reminder or Gangplank if you, for some reason, you decided you didn't want to go crit. When it comes to fighting her later on in the game, level 13, it does become a skill matchup, although it's easier for Aurelia to play it than it is for you. But again, this matchup is something that when you get ganked or snowballed out of control by the Aurelia, like 2 kills up, it feels unplayable. But it's a matchup that you very much so can get a lead in, and I think is a bit over-exaggerated in terms of its difficulty. Janna, in case we ever see enchanters top lane again, Ivern, Janna, Lulu, everything. Always take these runes, ready? You're always going to take First Strike. You're going to take, I forgot the other rune. You're going to take Free Boots, Magical Footwear. You're going to take Minion Dematerializer. You're going to take Time Warp Tonic. Secondary, we're going to go Taste of Blood. If we're against the Lulu, someone who can poke. Karma. Or we're going to take Eyeball Collection. And you always take Treasure Hunter second. Enjoy your LP. You'll be 3 items at 18 minutes every single game. You will never get solo killed, and it will be very easy to farm. Next matchup, Jax. This is one of the easier skill-based matchups. It's not like Darius where a lot of spacing is needed. This is a stand your ground type of matchup, similar to Garen. You just place a barrel down and you sit on it. When when Jax is in Q animation, you auto the barrel and you walk backwards because typically they combine that with their counter strike. And then you just S key outside, just outside the range of his E. That way if he clicks forward, you're already out of range. But if he clicks backwards, then you could follow him and Q him when his counter strike runs out. I would say this is a matchup that definitely is very much so easier to learn with the visual representation. So I highly recommend you watch my videos where I play against TFBlade, who's arguably one of the best Jaxes in the world. I've made him go 0-8, 0-5, 0-10. He's also beaten me a few times, but it definitely is good to have a visual representation of exactly what is said. Always take bone plating in this matchup, because if he's ever autoing you outside of queuing on top of you, you're probably doing something wrong unless it's specifically level 1 or level 2. Bone plating always has great value, whether you're going grasp or first strike, and yeah, stand your ground type of matchup. Jace, this is a matchup that I tend to ban a lot, because it doesn't really matter about the skill of the Jace. This is a matchup that does take effort to get a kill in, because although GP does beat Jace and he can go like 10 or 20 CS up, in solo queue environment to try and get kills, it can be very annoying. I would recommend you can go Ignite or TP. Net you the same results. Ignite is a higher risk, I would say, because if you make one bad trade and you don't have TP, you're kind of screwed. But with we're playing versus Jace, you definitely want to go Grasp, Biscuits, not Futures Market. We're going to go Biscuits, Grasp. We're not taking first strike. And we're going to be playing either TP or Ignite like we said before. And it's all about trading properly. So similar to where we play versus Fiora or Aurelia, we're like, okay, Aurelia wants to queue on minions. Jace wants to get collateral. He wants to kill a low health minion while also getting poke on you. So a lot of times people will hide in their minions and they'll try to auto attack, and then they'll like, all right, let's queue Jace. And then Jace EQs them. But a lot of the time, Jaces won't EQ you, especially if you're not in the minion wave, because then they go on a bit of a cooldown and they're not able to accomplish two things at once. 9 times out of 10, every Jace wants to accomplish two things at once. So I would say after you auto attack, try to stand to the side of your minion wave when they're low health. That way he has to make a decision to Q you or the minion wave. Either way, you should still win the trade with the Q auto on him, even if he goes into hammer form. Or he loses the minions and you get a free Q off on him and we get a slight edge there. Playing versus Jace, when he goes into his ranged form, he can auto attack a barrel multiple times. It's up to you to predict that. Similar to action, if you see him walking at your barrel with no reason and your barrel has 2 or 3 health, assume he's going to auto it multiple times. Pre-place that second barrel. That way when he is doing the fast motion on the barrels, you can auto attack that barrel in between his auto animations and kill him or get damage off on him. As for build versus Jace, this is one where the build varies actually. I would recommend that you probably go Trinity Force into Hullbreaker. Trinity Force Hullbreaker pretty much guarantees you the win versus this champion, not gonna lie. It feels very, very good to be able to just win later on. But early game, like I said, can be rough. I would recommend maybe even an early Tabby's purchase on your part as the Gangplank, because everything he does is auto attack based. So it does have insanely high value. Alright, next up, we have the Kalista matchup. This is a very niche matchup that not many people play against, but I have played against it and is also one of GP's hardest matchups in the game. It's pretty unplayable. It's very easy for Kalista to get a 3-wave stack, and her damage early game is so absurdly high that if you do get ganked once, you're probably out of the game for a very long time. Don't take Ignite, always take TP. Take First Strike, Dematerializer. Take Domination with Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter. I would say go for free boots as well. Very difficult matchup. There's no trading pattern versus Kalista. She just wins. Straight up. She just wins. The best thing you can do is either dodge or hope for your jungler to gank you. Next matchup, Karma. We already covered earlier. We go First Strike, Domination, Taste of Blood, and enjoy your LP after with those runes as well. Karma is not that difficult of a matchup to play. It's really up to you whether you want to fight her or not. You can go Ignite, you can go TP. I would recommend, if it was me, I'd play TP, First Strike, Futures Market, Stopwatch, Time Warp Tonic, Secondary Taste of Blood, Treasure Hunter, and trading pattern is pretty much just dodge her mantra Q, dodge her Q, similar to Jace. She wants to go for win-win scenarios where she gets minions and hits you at the same time, collateral. So stand outside of your minion waves, and if you ever see her walking up, assume she's going to Q you, so be ready to sidestep that and then get a Q back on her. Level 7, the matchup's pretty easy to play because your auto attacks travel faster than her auto attack, so you just play barrel timing war with her, and you'll win 9 times out of 10, even if you're not that good at GP, simply because her auto attacks are too slow. Karthus, same thing as we said before, you can take Ignite or First Strike into these weird mage picks top lane, and you can choose to farm or go for kill. Very easy to do both. Very, very easy to do both. Kassadin, I would probably go versus Kassadin. I think I would go Grasp with Futures Market and Time Warp Tonic, because playing versus Kassadin, it's so unplayable for Kassadin. This matchup, GP versus Kassadin, it's so unplayable until he hits like level 13. And then you probably lose at that point, to be honest. But you literally have 13 levels. You have like 25 minutes of the game to just roll him. So very, very, very easy matchup. Katarina is in the same level as I would say, honestly, as I would say Kassadin, that you really just hard stomp her early. If you really think you might die to her, by an early null magic or by D-Blade Ruby Crystal. Probably D-Blade Ruby Crystal is the best. Just sit on it even if you're not building Triforce. If you wanted to build Triforce and Hullbreaker or Triforce like Anathemas, then they're useless champions and you just perma-win for the rest of the game. But again, you have complete control. Kayle. Kayle is a matchup that I would probably want Grasp with Futures and Time Warp secondary. And you go Ignite. And you stand in front of your minion wave, level 1. You auto attack a minion, get your Grasp going, and you kind of just Q her down. And you should be able to dive her 9 times out of 10 on the 3rd or 4th wave by yourself with Ignite. Or your jungler can come and make it 10 times easier. She's a very squishy champion. You don't lose to her until she hits level 11, I would say. And then after that, it becomes very difficult to kill her. But until she hits level 11, you absolutely steamroll her. Level 7, I would say you do win. Level 7, you do win. So here's the thing that Kayle does. She can auto attack and E your barrel after she hits level 6. So you can predict that, although it's much harder to predict it because her auto E is almost instant, as opposed to actions being much slower. But you can predict that and try to outtime her anyways. And I would say, yeah, after level 11, this matchup is a little bit doomed for the GP, but pre-11, it's up to you to shut her down with Ignite, Grasp, and just queuing her. Definitely go crit, do not go Hullbreaker. If you really were worried about Kayle, maybe build Anathemas, although she does build Riftmaker, I believe, and that does true damage, so maybe it's not worth it. Kennen. Kennen's a matchup I highly recommend you take Ignite versus, because Kennen's a matchup that usually wants to take Ignite as well, and if they don't, they have Summonary Domination. This is kind of like the Kayle matchup, except the scaling is not as good, believe it or not, in terms of GP versus Kennen. Actually, this is more like the Akali matchup. Yeah, this is more like the Akali matchup. Early game, very weak. He spikes for a second, but not really. If you build D-Blade Ruby or you build a Hex Shrinker, then you just perma-win. And that's about it. You just Q him early. You hide behind your minions because he'll try to Q you through your minions. But you can also step outside of your minion wave for 1 second, and then he'll try to think he has an opportunity to Q you. So he'll Q the second you leave the minion wave, and in that case you juke back into the minion wave, wastes Q. It goes on like a 7-second CD, 6-second CD, 8-second CD. Then you Q him during that time. Barrels and bushes are very OP. Take advantage of when his Spirit Rush, I think that's what it's called. No, that's Ari's ult. When his E, the thing that makes him go really quickly, is on cooldown. Make sure you take advantage of that by walking forward. Boots early I would recommend just tier 1s. You don't need tier 2s. Just boots early are very nice. And again, either go Hex Shrinker or D-Blade Ruby, and you will never die in this matchup ever. Now, I say D-Blade Ruby, but if their jungler is also AP or the mid laner is also AP, if they like triple AP, then definitely go for that D-Blade and Null Magic Mantle. Kha'Zix is a matchup that I played against top lane. It's a really dumb pick in my opinion. I think it's one of the worst top lane picks of all time. Especially into GP, it's weird because you get free farm. So similar to those Enchanter runes that we talked about earlier, I would probably take this exact same runes into Kha'Zix. So First Strike, secondary taking Domination with Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter with Dematerializer in the First Strike tree, and everything else pretty standard. Kled is a matchup that I think is similar, is a little bit harder than Gwen actually, where it's the same concept, but Kled is just a stronger character in my opinion in terms of laning phase, where Bone Plating cripples this champion very hard, as long as you're able to dodge his Q. And even if you do dodge his Q, you trade Q for Q, so you're guaranteed to win that trade at least. And if you're always sitting on a barrel and he E's in, then you auto attack the barrel. You get the movement speed from that. He's also slowed to dodge his Q. And then you Q him with another Sheen proc afterwards. It's not very hard. I would say one bait thing that Kled players do to a lot of Gangplanks especially is what ends up happening is the GP will dismount the Kled too early into a fight. And so they just use their barrel or they just use their ulti to dismount the Kled. But now they don't have any cooldowns and Kled is dismounted, auto attacking them, gets his Scar all back up, ults them, kills them. So to counteract that, you want to make sure you're poking him slowly. Even when he E's on you, all you want to use is your auto and your Q. You don't want to immediately dismount him because that will just lead to problems. The only reason you would ever dismount him instantly is if you already had a barrel set up. Like we said before, bone plating cripples this champion. Tabbies also cripples this champion. Yeah, pretty weak champ overall. I would probably go Essence Reaver, although I would recommend that all of you play against Kled go Trinity Force into Hullbreaker. Or yeah, Trinity Force into Hullbreaker probably. Or maybe like go Trinity Crit and build like Anathemas. You could go Bruiser. You could go like Tri Hull and then into Crit, or Tri Crit into Hullbreaker later on. Really is up to you, but yeah, this matchup is not that difficult. I would say you take either TP or Ignite. What I recommend personally is probably TP, because TP is very nice in these matchups where they're crippled by items, you know, similar to Akali and Kennen. Although you can dive those champions early, they're crippled by items. So if you buy a Hex Shrinker, or in this case Tabbies or one cloth armor, Kled struggles a lot. Lee Sin. I know it went out of the meta, but in case Lee Sin ever does come back in the meta, the way you play against Lee Sin is pretty much, you always take Ignite into this matchup no matter what. You always take Ignite and you go Sheen and you kind of just sit on a barrel. But here's the thing, you don't place your barrel directly on top of the enemy minions. You place them like towards the end of, so basically the barrel range, the tip of your barrel, the circle that surrounds that barrel, you want the tip of that to be touching the enemy minions. That way, when Lee Sin W's onto his own minions and tries to auto the barrel, you have a second to react instead of having a quarter of a second or half a second to react to him W'ing on the minion. And that allows you to get prio on the barrel, then he has no W, he didn't get a shield. Auto attack Q him, he dies. Something that's good to know about playing GP versus Lee Sin, if he ever kicks you, like flash kicks you, you can orange and you could also flash right after you orange. Similar to how you can QSS flash, or how you used to at least, I don't know how it works now. You can orange flash Lee Sin's kick and not be displaced at all. Very nice. Into this matchup, definitely go Executioners, do not go Bramble Nest, because he can just use the Spell Vamp and then use his E, which is magic damage, and your Bramble has no effect, so definitely go Executioner. I would go Crit, Essence Reaver, Prowlers, the whole shebang. Although Trinity Force Hullbreaker would poop on this guy too. If you ever play against Lilia top for whatever reason, this is probably one of GP's easiest matchups in the entire game. I would say take Ignite and take Ignite and First Strike with Domination Secondary with Treasure Hunter and Taste of Blood. Just make sure you take Ignite versus this character, and you kind of just one-shot her. She can't really Q to minions, or you Q her, but let's say she Qs to a minion. You have a barrel, you have Q. If she tries to E the minion wave, so what? She gets that, right? If she W's in, she should die. This is kind of like, this matchup kind of reminds me of playing versus Akali, but like Akali level 1, and then you play against Akali level 1 for the rest of the game. Like, pretty one-dimensional matchup. You either win or you don't. You either Q her and you like weave out her only skill shot, her E, or you don't. It is what it is. Playing versus Lysandra, we covered earlier, one of those weird mages. You just take Ignite, Grasp, Second Wind, and you're chilling. Yeah, Ignite, Grasp, and you just kill her. There's really no tips for this matchup. Most I can say is dodge or Q. You can orange. I would say don't orange right away, actually. When you play versus this champion after 6, don't orange right away after you get hit by W. Orange her ulti. Orange her ulti always. And always keep track of both of those CCs, because sometimes they'll ulti then W, sometimes they'll W then ulti. It's really good to just keep track of that. Lucian. Lucian's a matchup that I recommend you also probably dodge into, because it's a very difficult matchup to play, especially if you're not a seasoned GP player. Like, you actually need to be good at GP. This isn't one of those, like, interpretable matchups, if that makes sense. This is a matchup that you do need to be skilled to play, and I would say it's not worth egoing. So here's what you do. You take Grasp, you go Biscuit secondary. We're going to get an early D shield. We're also going to take Ignite. No, we're going to take TP. We're going to take TP. We're going to take TP. We're going to recall and 450 gold, and we're going to buy a D shield. We also have second wind already. We have our biscuits, and the laning phase should be sustainable at that point. It's just getting a kill is very difficult, which feels bad in solo queue because you always want to be getting leads. You don't want to be relying on your teammates. When he goes for his, whenever he W's, try to avoid his W, because typically after Lucian's in a W, they'll lead it up with ulti since they get the movement speed and they can track you. Try to bait him into queuing the minions and then walking out. A lot of people don't know this, but Lucian Q is actually dodgeable. Even if you auto attack a minion with your passive and he tries to Q you, you can actually dodge sharply upwards or downwards and avoid his Q damage entirely. Like his array will still go off, but it'll miss you because you ran out of it. Lucian is also trying to do what Jace does. Jace tries to accomplish two things at once, where he EQs the wave and also hits you, and Lucian tries to Q the wave and push it while also hurting you. So it's good to just stand to the side of the minions. Pre-6, after 6, you want to make sure you always have a minion wave. You're always paying attention to where your minions are, because if not and you get hit by his ulti, it's very easy to just die. Lulu we already covered. Take first strike, domination, Ravenous, second Ravenous, and or not Ravenous, sorry, Treasure Hunter, Taste of Blood. Very easy matchup. Malphite. So we got our first tank here. So this is a matchup that you can either take Grasp or First Strike into. I would probably just go and this matchup is actually very interesting because playing versus Combat Malphite can murder you. I would say generally take First Strike. Generally take First Strike. Take Ravenous or Taste of Blood. I keep saying Ravenous, sorry. Taste of Blood, Treasure Hunter. Very, 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 very nice matchup to play in terms of scaling. You kind of choose and pick all of your battles. Don't burn your flash when he's level 6, even if it's... I even think killing him when he's level 6 is not worth it. Because when your flash is down for 5 minutes, you can die 2 to 3 times. Which doesn't feel good at all. Unless their jungler is like a turbo weak champion and Malphite's also turbo behind because of the kill. A lot of times it's not worth burning your flash early because it just causes all sorts of problems for you. For playing versus Comet Malphite, I would say make sure you take Time Warp Tonic and make sure you auto a minion when you know his Comet's up, which you can see by it rotating around his champion. And then when he uses his Comet, auto attack a minion so that you can actually dodge the Comet damage. Because a lot of the time it's the Comet damage that hurts the most and not actually his Q. His Comet damage hits for like 40. And then he Qs again, that's another 40. So you can actually run out of this by using Time Warp Tonic movement speed and running out with tier 1 boots, or auto attacking a minion at any single point in the game with your passive and being able to run out. Pretty boring matchup. That's pretty much the only tip or insight I have for Malphite. Next up we have Malzahar. You take the same runes that you would take versus Enchanter. You take free boots, you take minion DMAT, you take Time Warp Tonic, and you'll pretty much have 2 ult upgrades by like 17 minutes in this matchup. Very easy. Just farm his Voidlings. You get a Q. You get gold from killing his Voidlings, and you also get Silver Serpents. Very, very, very easy matchup. Secondary, always taking that Treasure Hunter and Eyeball collection I would probably take into this one, to be honest. And yeah, pretty nice. Lastly, or actually not lastly, and now we'll go into the next matchup. Alright, next up we have the Maokai matchup. So playing versus Maokai is very easy. Never ever take Grasp, I would say. Always go First Strike. And when you do go First Strike, I would say take Taste of Blood. Pretty much Sorcery Secondary on First Strike has been a little bit useless ever since Treasure Hunter has gotten introduced, because with Treasure Hunter, it's a very nice rune. The problem with taking Domination was you never had a really good rune to take. Like Ultimate Hunter didn't really feel that good to take on GP in my opinion, but Treasure Hunter does feel pretty damn good. It does feel pretty good, so I would say Taste of Blood with Treasure Hunter Secondary. Although we're not taking DMAT in this matchup, we're taking Stopwatch. We're taking Stopwatch, Futures, and Time Warp. It's very easy to play this matchup. Pretty much avoid the bushes for his saplings. You can bring him to you with your root. A lot of times Maokais will try to Q. They'll try to E under your root, they'll try to tunnel under your Q. So what you can do is you can actually bait out the Maokai from using that by using Control 1 taunt. And by using Control 1 taunt, I didn't mention this, but this also works versus Fiora to bait out her parry. They think that your Q animation is going off, but it's really just a taunt. And then they'll use their defensive ability. So in this case, Maokai, it's his root, Fiora, it's her W. Pretty easy, nice farm matchup. Master Yi, the way you kill this guy, you're always going to need bone plating because the only way he jumps on you as a melee character is with his Q. So we're going to be taking either First Strike or Grasp. Probably recommend Grasp. You go, you go Grasp. Sorry, I'm blanking for a second. Grasp, Bone Plating, right? And then secondary, we take Inspiration with Time Warp Tonic and Futures Market. Pretty much this matchup is all just sitting on your barrel, standing your ground, queuing him, and if he tries to queue your Q, then you just auto attack the barrel that you're on, auto attack him once with your passive and run away, space at the edge though of your Q, and then Q him when he tries to kill the minions. Very, 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 very nice matchup to play. And enjoy your free win because the enemy team rage locked Master Yi top. Next up, we have Mordekaiser. Mordekaiser is a matchup you always take First Strike into no matter what. Secondary, we're taking Taste of Blood, Raven, and Treasure Hunter. And pretty much what you want to do in this matchup is just farm. There's really no rush for anything. You can just farm. You choose what to do. You kind of just gotta dodge his E. This is a matchup that you're gonna be decent at spacing. Your Q outranges Mordekaiser Q, similar to how your Q outranges Akali Q. So if you get hit by Mordekaiser Q, you're probably doing something a bit wrong. And as for Mordekaiser's E, you just kind of dodge it. You just kind of gotta dodge it. And then his ulti, you just always have orange for. If you don't use your orange for his ulti, you will be losing every single 1v1. And as for playing versus Mordekaiser, that's pretty much it. It's one of the more boring matchups. You kind of just farm. If they have one more shield on their team, I would recommend Serpent's Fang for sure, because Mordekaiser's shield does get really, really fat later on in the game, especially mid game. So I would say if they have one more shield other than Mordekaiser, definitely go Serpent's Fang second. As always, we're going crit. If I don't mention Triforce, it means you're going crit, because crit is just the best build to go on GP no matter what. And I believe that the Essence Reaver Prowler's build is the best for carrying, especially in solo queue. Next up, we have Nasus. Nasus is a similar matchup to Maokai, although it's much easier than Maokai, surprisingly enough. You bully him early. I would say this is a matchup that requires a lot of visual representation, because playing versus Nasus is kind of like more like a forehead thing to say. Like, it's really just me saying, just get a lead, forehead. You know what I mean? Like, just punish him. So I would say that you guys definitely watch a video on how to play Nasus. I have plenty of those videos on my channel. You're going to take First Strike secondary with Taste of Blood, Treasure Hunter, and yeah, quite standard. Pretty standard matchup. You just queue him, you get your free gold, collect the check, we're chilling. Nico top. Now if you're playing against 80 Nico top, I recommend you take Grasp. Even if you're against AP, you always take Grasp, because if you play against 80 Nico top and you have First Strike, you're going to get rolled. So I highly recommend that versus Nico top, you just end up taking Grasp, Ignite, Inspiration secondary with Futures, Time Warp, and you kind of just Q her when she goes on you. Avoid her abilities, avoid her root is the most important. If you get hit by a Q, it's fine, but just avoid her root. Her root's really, really annoying. Save your orange for her ult. Level 7, I would say, is the biggest power spike you have in this matchup. Definitely worth going D-Blade into. Even a Ruby Crystal, I would say, is very, very nice. You could go Trinity Force, but I highly recommend Essence Reaver, because you'll just be able to damage the rest of her team as well later on. Trinity gives you a healthier laning, but Essence Reaver gives you a healthier game overall. Yeah, once you're level 7, it's good to go for these timing on the barrels, especially when you play versus range characters. So 100% when you play versus this Nico, it's definitely worth it. Next matchup, I'm not going to go over Nidalee, because Nidalee is not a matchup that, well, I've played against. I've played against maybe one Nidalee in my entire lifetime. But if you guys wanted to know the runes for this matchup, just take the same runes you take versus a Lulu. Nocturne top, you always take Grasp no matter what into with Biscuits, and you take Ignite. Any matchup that I say you need Biscuits for is because you're playing a battle of sustain versus these characters. And similar to playing versus Fiora, you can bait out a spell shield by pressing control 1 as your taunt, which looks like your Q animation going off, and sometimes they'll use their spell shield, but even if they don't, there's no excuse to lose this matchup. You one-shot him so hard even from the get-go. Level 2. Level 1, he probably gets shoved on you, but level 2, very easy to just kill. Save your orange for his root. You're gonna need health though of some sort, whether you get Ruby Crystal, whether you get a D-Blade, whether you buy an early Tabbies, you will need some sort of resistance / health in order to survive his level 6 all-in, because they typically take Ignite as well, and it's just always nice to make sure you have that guarantee that you can win the matchup. Alright, next up we have Olaf. So Olaf is a matchup that a lot of people also think is hard, but it's really not hard at all. You kind of just Q him when you have Grasp up. We're going to be taking Biscuit secondary as well, since he's also a champ that likes to sustain. Take Ignite every single time. Don't try to ego it. Always take Ignite. And you kind of just sit on a barrel. Once he's level 6, if he lands one axe, you orange that axe instantly. A lot of people don't do that. They wait to get low health because they think that matters, right? Well, let's say you wait until last second to orange. You're dead anyways, even if he's 6, right? You're dead anyways, even if you orange and you get a lot of health. You get like 200 health. Because you orange at 1 HP, you will still die. Here's how you don't die. You orange the first axe that he throws at you. That way you remove the slow off of you. That way he can't chain axe you. It's much harder for him to chain axe you once you orange the first barrel. I would say never fight him at level 6. If you're ever going to fight him at level 7, definitely going to need to fight with passive procs and out timing him on your barrels. Grasp makes this matchup very, very nice, along with Ignite. Makes the matchup so nice to play. And yeah, pretty playable. If you really want, what you can do versus this matchup is also buy Swifties, and that's very viable. However, if it were me playing, I would probably just buy D-Blade, and I don't think I would buy Ruby Crystal, but I'd buy D-Blade, Sheen, Double Longsword, like just raw AD, and that typically works. I would also prioritize an Executioner's early, so I would say Executioner's early is one of the best things you can do for yourself in this matchup, and buying at least tier 1 boots similar to playing versus Darius. Orin matchup, runes, we're going to be taking our First Strike Domination secondary with Taste of Blood, Treasure Hunter. And yeah, this matchup is kind of a Giga Chad matchup on Orin's side, to be honest, because his champion's like, it's a tank, but it's like a tank that's like Giga Chad, because he has to do everything right to actually get leads in lane. Orin, I would say, you definitely fight him with Futurist Market. You look for a cheater on the 3rd or 4th wave, get a Sheen, and you kind of freeze, stand to the side of your wave, you thin that wave out, and you stand to the side of your wave trying to Q him when he goes for Qs. Now here's something that will happen. A lot of people will play versus Orin, his Q goes wide and he misses, but then they walk up to the pillar, and then the Orin E's them, and then he chains the combo, right? So here's what you do. When Orin presses Q, you actually walk up, and then you walk right backwards, similar to the Gragas matchup. And because of that, he'll E in, and because you are already sidestepping, because you planned that he was going to E, you can land a barrel on him, you can Q him, you can hit him with your passive, and yeah, it's one way to get a good trade. Here's another thing people don't know. Orin's W, that brittle proc that you get, the brittle passive that gets applied onto you, doesn't actually happen until the last second of his W animation. So if his W animation is 2 seconds, he only does a little bit of damage for the first second, and then the second comes, that's where his brittle comes in. So theoretically, right, if you're fighting Orin and you auto attack him and he's Wing you, and you sidestep the last half second of his W, you will not get the brittle proc on you, and he will not do that % health damage on you. That's really nice. Meaning, instead of doing maybe 230 damage, he'll only do 80 damage to you. You might be like, wow, that's pretty nice, right? But that doesn't mean much, does it? It does. Now combine that all the times that he uses his brittle proc on you and in one single laning phase. That's all health that you could have in addition to what you have already. And you winning the trade even harder, which leads to you having more confidence to take better trades. Playing versus Ornn with his ult, if he does knock you up in the air, similar to Lee Sin, you can orange flash to displace yourself after getting hit. And it removes the slow, and you could also move afterwards after flashing as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else about this matchup. His Q is pretty much gonna be the ability you dodge, similar to Alawi. If he doesn't land his Q, he has nothing on you. If he doesn't land his Q, he's got nothing on you. If he lands his Q, he can slow you, then E, then W, or he could Q, then ult, then E on you, then like W auto, then like ult auto you, and then you get one shot. Especially if he takes Summoner or Spellbook. Yeah, Unsealed Spellbook, then he can ignite you as well, and you're dead. Dodges Q, you win. What does that mean? Prioritize boots early. Prioritize boots early. Make sure you have that Time Warp Tonic. Take that first strike, and as long as you're dodging that Q, you're gonna win. Pantheon, don't take first strike into. Always take grasp. Always take grasp. Always take grasp. Go ignite, and yeah, that's about it. take grasp, ignite. I would say bone plating, it can be good, but I would probably opt into second wind. Because a good Pantheon will not W you right away. They'll always try to Q you from max range and then maybe try to whittle you down. A bad Pantheon will insta-W on you and then you trade on him and you win the trade. Pantheon's a very squishy champion. Although he does do damage, he's very, very, very squishy. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that when you play versus Pantheon, one of the biggest things you should do is rush an early cloth armor, because he likes to build that Dirk, he likes to build that lethality. Build that cloth armor and build either a ruby or a D-blade. You don't have to build both, but build either D-blade or ruby. That way you have enough health, and you have enough health to complement your armor, your cloth armor, to survive his entire full combo easily and also trade back and win hard. Bait out his Q bait out his shield by using your Q, by using his E, I believe it's called, where he goes invulnerable. You can bait that out by using Control 1. Sometimes Pantheons will use their shield because they don't want to get hit by your Q. Control 1, again, that taunt animation. And here's something I didn't go over that can be applied into the Fiora matchup. When Pantheon W's on top of you, you place a barrel, right? Then it's ticking down to 1. As Pantheon's running away, you can land that second barrel on him, but here's the catch. Ready? As he's Eing, you place 2 barrels, you cancel the auto on the first barrel to bait out his E, and then as he's halfway done with his E animation, you Q the first barrel and you place a third barrel, so a triple barrel combo, and then as his E runs out, because he thought you were going to barrel combo him, but you canceled your auto attack, then you Q that barrel, you triple barrel him, and you land that barrel on him, and you get that winning trade. Similar to Fiora, when Fiora tries to riposte your barrel, she tries to parry your barrel, you can S-key that auto attack that would blow up your barrel, and then after you see she's halfway through her parry animation, you blow up the barrel. That way, right when she comes out of that animation, she gets hit by damage. Poppy. Poppy's a matchup where I recommend you go first strike into, Taste the Blood, Treasure Hunter, and you do not take minion demat, you take Stopwatch, Futures, Time Warp Tonic. Trade with her pretty hard early. The only problem here that I see people do is they get hit by her passive a lot. When her passive, she can't really control that much. Like, she has to farm, so she's gonna 9 times out of 10 auto attack a minion with that passive. Here's something people don't know. You can step on Poppy's passive shield to be able to like delete it. Like, a lot of people don't know that for some reason. That Poppy's shield, you can just step on, like her when it comes out of her from her passive, you can step on it and that shield disappears. So yeah, I would say you always walk in front to try and get that shield. A lot of times you can bait Poppies into Eing you into a wall, even if it's a losing trade. Then you insta orange auto them with your passive, Q them, and then you'll always win the trade. Poppy matchup's pretty straightforward. If you lose it, it's really because, I mean, like, you really don't know what you're doing. You're like 5 games into playing GP. Now, can a Poppy go even with you? Yes. Can they go like Grasp, Biscuits, and go even with you? Yes. But they cannot win that matchup. It's not a winnable matchup for Poppy. Pretty boring, poor matchup. And let's go to the next one. Alright, let's see what we got next. We have Kiana matchup. Some people do play Kiana into GP top lane. I recommend that you probably take Grasp, Ignite, and you kind of just body her really hard early. You don't need Biscuits. You could take Futures Market. If you really wanted to make this Kiana angry, I would say you go Cloth Armor, Ruby Crystal. Don't buy a D-Blade. Instead, buy an early Tabbies, and then whatever you build Triforce, I would say, into Kiana. Buy Triforce, and here's an OP item that I think you should buy versus champions that are crippled not only by armor, but even if they build like Armor Pen. Anathema's Chains is a very OP item. I would recommend you probably go Triforce into maybe Anathema Chain second, and then you can build crit after that. And what that allows you to do, you still get 60% crit. Yeah, you still get 60% crit. But what ends up happening, right? Kiana has a permanent exhaust. If you guys don't know, Anathemas gives you 600 health, 20 haste, and a free exhaust on one character for the rest of the game. Very OP. Highly recommend you do that to Kiana, and you should not struggle versus this champion with Ignite and Grasp. Quinn. Quinn is a matchup that's similar to, I would say, Jace. But it's like very weak Jace. It's kind of like 40% of what Jace is. Not even 50, 40%. So it's a very easy matchup. Very, very easy matchup. You go Grasp, you take Second Wind, and you can take Biscuits in this matchup, although I would take Futures Market. You auto a minion, you poke her level 1 with Q. If she trades Q for E auto, you still win on that trade because she has D-Blade and you have Corrupting Potions. If she has Longsword, then you need to be more specific about your trades. You need to wait for barrels to come up and you need to hit her with a barrel and then maybe hit her with a Q before you actually decide to commit to a trade. But if she has D-Blade, which 99.99% of Quins go D-Blade, then playing this matchup as the GP makes it extremely easy. You kind of just stay in your minions, you Q, and you force her into a barrel game. So what I mean force her into a barrel game, you place barrels almost in front of her, but not exactly in front of her, like, excuse me, like where her caster minions are, and then you force her to try and outtime you. And obviously because she has range and you have melee range auto attack, you place the second barrel, auto that, then you Q her after that. And you should be able to win that 99.99% of the times. After she's 6, make sure you type in all chat, or maybe you should make sure you type to your teammates and ping them off instantly where Quinn is roaming, because the matchup is very easy, but her roaming does make it a little bit annoying and a little bit hard. That being said, Quinn, similar to Jace, builds lethality early and gets crippled by cloth armor / tabby. So getting in early tabbies can be very beneficial for you. Otherwise, you can just sit on sit on one cloth armor and you will be fine for the rest of the game. Pretty straightforward, easy matchup. If you do still need guidance in this matchup, as some people do, make sure you do check out the many videos I have on YouTube. Renekton. We have one of our first matchups that I recommend you go barrel start instead of Q start over. Reasoning for this, even if he starts Q, Renekton cannot ever get shoved in the wave versus a barrel because it's very easy to outtime him. And if he does outtime you, you can auto attack him for passive, and then you have 2 more tries since you get 3 barrels level 1, 4 if you place one at the 110 mark. As the minions are spawning, you have a barrel already placed. One barrel does the damage of 2 Qs, meaning that if you get a passive, then you barrel someone, and then you auto attack them again, they're going to be at like 10%, 20% health. It's a lot of damage early on, and Renekton's a champion similar to Garen that you have to stand your ground and just wait there for him to move forward. He can't do anything about it. So you place the barrel down and you just kind of defend it. So yeah, Renekton is definitely a champion that you definitely should go barrel start into. I would go Ignite 99.99% of the time. And I'd also complement it with Biscuits. Because when you play versus Renekton, because you're freezing for so long and you're freezing so hard, I would recommend you take Biscuits versus Renekton, and it makes the matchup so easy to play. And then you could cheat on the 3rd or 4th wave, or you potentially get a dive, recall, and get a D-Blade or a Ruby Crystal. Probably D-Blade. Then you come back, you freeze that lane, and if he ever walks up, you just auto attack the barrel. Similar to Jax, he only has one way in, and that's with his dash. So Jax is his Q, Renekton it's his E, his little slice and dice. So he E's in, you auto attack the barrel. Let's say he stuns you, you orange that instantly, he's in animation still, you auto attack him. On the way out, you Q him, and you'll win every time. What I described is the best case scenario for Renekton, and you'll win it every time, easy. Rengar is a matchup that I tend to struggle versus. I would say it's probably best to go Biscuits, and then you go Grasp, Bone Plating, Overgrowth, and then secondary you're gonna want Inspiration here with, let's see, you're gonna want Inspiration here with, I would say Biscuits. I would say Biscuits and Time Warp Tonic. And the way you play this is you kind of just ward the bush that he's trying to sit in, the middle bush, and then you try to push the wave. And then when you push the wave and you try to shove him in, that's pretty much your time to either recall or your time to try and poke him. This is a matchup that's very hard for me to explain, to be honest with you, because it definitely has a lot of different scenarios in the same one matchup compared to Renekton, which is very straightforward, and Jax, who's straightforward. So sitting on a barrel is very hard as well. You can sit on a barrel, and as he's dashing in, you can auto attack the barrel, but it's very hard to get that timing down right because you have very little time to react. Always make sure you have your orange for his bola on his E, especially when it's empowered. You don't want to get rooted. That's one of the worst things you could do. Now, I don't know how this matchup goes after the new Rengar changes. I'd assume it's still difficult for Rengar or for GP, but I really would have to see exactly what they change about this character. I don't know if he's more damage heavy, if he's more tanky. I truly do not know anything about this character as it stands, so I will not draw assumptions, but I will say it's a pretty difficult matchup and get tabbies early. Riven's a matchup that you can take both into. If you struggle, this is completely up to preference. You can take Grasp or you can take First Strike. I personally would always love to go First Strike in this matchup with Resolve secondary, similar to Kled, where you kind of just sit on a barrel, stand your ground, and you wait for her to go in while also maintaining bone plating, right? Because she can never poke you unless she jumps in, just like the Jax matchup. So place a barrel down, you sit on it, and chances are, whenever you Q the Riven, if you're in range to Q her, she'll dash in. So you know what you can do? You could Q her, then auto attack your barrel because you know she's gonna dash in. She takes that damage, you orange her W, auto attack her, wait for your Sheen proc to come up, Q her, and you win that every time. She's dead or she's 1 HP. She will never kill you, even if she has ulti. I played this matchup in high elo multiple times against the best Rivens. I played this in AU against Challenger Rivens as well. Even playing on 90 ping, I still won. And the reason for that is because it's very there's less scenarios of playing GP versus Riven than there are of GP versus Rengar. Like, there's less sporadic things that happen in the laning phase. Riven kind of only has one way to play. GP has all autonomy in the lane. So sitting on that barrel, queuing her, and she either runs away or she has to run in. You always want to make sure you get that cheater off in the 3rd or 4th wave to get to the scenario that I'm talking about, though. To make sure you get either a Sheen or you get like a D-Blade. You will always be taking, in my opinion, I think you should take First Strike with Resolve secondary with Bone Plating and Overgrowth. Some people do like Grasp though, so I will say that Grasp with Futures Market is also a possibility. Riven's tend to take Ignite top lane. You can take Ignite top lane. In fact, you should only take Ignite into this matchup. You should never take TP. You should never take TP. Ignite will just always make this matchup super winnable. Next matchup we have here is Rumble. So playing against Rumble, you always want to have two things: Grasp, Second Wind, D-Shield, and then I would even say, I'm trying to decide between Biscuits or Futures Market of all the times I played versus Rumble. I would say of all the times I played versus Rumble, I think Futures Market's actually better because Biscuits don't really do anything for the early laning phase since you get pushed regardless, and even when he's all-inning you, the Biscuits don't make a difference because you're going to get ignited. So Futures Market ultimately has better value. So you can generally find cheater recalls on the 3rd or 4th wave versus Rumble. And what I would recommend actually playing versus Rumble along with that rune page is you kind of just farm a little bit. You don't really take Ignite in my opinion. I think TP is probably better versus Rumble. You always buy an early Ruby Crystal, you buy a Null Magic Mantle, or what you can do is you can buy D-Shield and Null Magic Mantle. And what that does is you get health from D-Shield. It synergizes well with Second Wind. And not only are you regenerating a lot of health, but you have Null Magic Mantle to lower the amount of damage he's doing, in addition to also having health, which makes it really, really, really nice combo to have. I think with both D-Shield and Null Magic Mantle, you should never lose this matchup. Sheen is not a priority in this lane. Those two items are. That being said, once he's level 6, if he's ever overheated, it's very hard to kill him and fight him, but level 7 onwards, it should be pretty breezy lane. Visual representation of this can be found on my YouTube channel, or if you type anywhere in YouTube, GP versus Rumble, and it will match up with everything that I'm saying right here. Rise is a matchup that you can actually kill with Grasp and Ignite, believe it or not, but I would say the easier way to go, and the way that is more reliable, especially if you're not playing strong side top lane, is going First Strike with Dematerializer, Stopwatch, or Stopwatch or Boots, whichever one you decide, along with Time Warp Tonic, with secondary being Treasure Hunter with Taste of Blood. What that allows you to do, Rise is always trying to shove the wave. You get very, very easy push, level 7, you can just farm versus him, very, very nice and easy. You also outscale him. Level 10, wow. Level 10 is the time that you can kill Rise because you get 4 barrels in your inventory. You can go barrel into barrel, Very nice and easy. One thing I will say is that typically when you want to trade versus Rise, you always want to make sure you burn his phase rush before you get a gank by your jungler. Or if you're looking to kill him like level 7 onwards, you want to burn his phase rush first. That way he can't just phase rush your barrel slow and then run away. Or your jungler slow or CC, you don't want him to just pop phase rush and just dip. So 100% recommend that playing versus Rise, you definitely try to burn that phase rush early. And if you're trying to get a kill on him, don't let him proc his phase rush. A lot of Rises will use Everfrost and then like EWU or like EQ or QWU and then instantly run away because they have phase rush. So try to stand on the outskirts of his range and playing max barrel range to make sure he doesn't get phase rush. Alright, another thing that can happen, playing versus Sejuani. Sejuani is kind of like, in my opinion, I think Sejuani is a better version of Ornn in that she does more damage. Well, at least in laning phase, she does more damage, she's tankier, and she's just overall really strong. Sejuani is a matchup that usually takes like TP and Ignite as well, along with Grasp. The way to combat this, in my opinion, you can either go Grasp and you can go Ignite as well with Biscuits and try to kill her. Or you could do what I just mentioned for the Rise matchup, same exact runes, and farm versus Sejuani. Both are completely up to you, optional. I would say if you're trying to get better, maybe try to play Grasp and learn the matchup. Or you can take First Strike and be like, I'd rather just take a free lane with that dematerializer. So either one is completely optional, and overall Sejuani matchup is one of the more difficult tank matchups to play. But I believe that with Biscuits, with Ignite, with Grasp, it is very easy to match her damage, especially with just using auto Q, no fancy barrel combos. Definitely need an early Ruby Crystal or a D-Blade. I do not recommend no Magic Mantle right off the bat, but I do recommend getting some form of health. Next matchup, Set. So Set's a matchup that I think First Strike is the best into over Grasp, because with Grasp you maybe go even with him, but with First Strike you're always ahead even if you're down 10 CS. You always, no matter if you take First Strike or Grasp, whatever your choice is, although I recommend First Strike, always take Bone Plating versus Set, because the only way he's going to jump on you, same way playing versus the Jax matchup, is if he jumps on you, making Bone Plating viable. You would not take Bone Plating versus like a Rise, because he can poke you with an auto or a W and then you don't have a rune for the next 45 seconds. Playing versus Set, he has to E you and then his E goes on like a 15-second cooldown or something, and then he typically autos Qs you, right? He does everything, so you get full value of Bone Plating in this matchup. Taking First Strike with Stopwatch and Stopwatch, Futurist, Time Warp, and then secondary being Bone Plating Overgrowth. Very easy matchup to play in my opinion after you get Sheen and Boots. You always want to rush a tier 1 Boots early versus Set, that way he can't just Q and then run at you and then press E. Serpent's Fang, highly recommend versus Set, even if they only have one other shield. If they have one or more shields besides the Set, excuse me, I would always recommend that you build Serpent's Fang versus him. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, it really is all about just farming, I believe, in this matchup. It's farming whenever you have Q up in First Strike, while also just sitting on the barrel and saying, I dare you to walk up. Alright, next matchup we have here is Shen. Alright, so with this Shen matchup, definitely go First Strike no matter what. You can take Resolve into this matchup if you like, if you feel like Shen pokes you out really hard early. I personally do not go Resolve secondary, although a lot of people, there will be people who watch this video and struggle, and they will want to know what options are, so that's why I always give options. I recommend versus Shen that you take probably Taste of Blood as well, honestly, and Gathering and Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter, although you can take Mana Flow and Gathering Storm, or Transcendence and Gathering Storm. Both are actually very, 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 very good into Shen. As for the early laning phase, whenever he taunts on you after level 7, you could orange barrel auto Q, and he should always die, because then after that you can chain that with ulti or chain that with a passive, placing another barrel down, then queuing him, blowing up that barrel, getting another passive after that. So Shen taunting after level 7 is pretty illegal onto you. You should always be able to kill him. You can press Control 1 to taunt and bait out his W, so that he presses W on nothing. And then after that, Q when his W is about to end and get some damage off on him. If you ever ult cross map, make sure you're always looking to ult cross map as well to help your team out. You can't cancel his ulti, unfortunately, but you can get a lot of plays from top lane. I would say no matter what, even if they only had 0 shields, I would probably always go Serpent's Fang. Maybe if they had 1 other shield, always go Serpent's Fang secondary. So Essence Reaver, Serpent's Fang, and you're chilling. You do so much damage to him. One thing I also want to note that's equal about both of these matchups is that Shen and Set are both very, very easily beaten by GP at level 13. Level 13, you go barrel, barrel into barrel Q, and then barrel, barrel, and they're both 1 HP. Serpent's Fang is applied, and it's just so unbelievably one-sided, and you get so much first strike gold in both of these matchups. So Shen taunts after level 7, easily killable. Before that, if he taunting you, you will take damage. Best thing you can do for yourself is just try to sit on a barrel and say, I dare you to walk up. Next matchup we're going to go into, is the Singed matchup. So Singed matchup, easiest one in the entire game in my opinion. This is probably one of the only matchups that maybe I wouldn't say to go Domination with Treasure Hunter. I might recommend that you actually go Transcendence to farm with Q better, and then Gathering Storm. It's probably the only matchup I would ever say that for. Landing Phase is ridiculously easy versus Singed. You sit on a barrel, similar to Garen, you say walk up. You might be noticing a trend, and that's because a lot of GP's early game laning phase is pretty copy and paste for some of these matchups. You sit on a barrel, you say I walk up. You Q him. If he tries to walk around your minion wave, then you place a second barrel. Something that you can do early on is get a ward off in the river to make sure he doesn't proxy, because if he proxies, then it's a boring lane and you don't get a lead. But if minions meet minions, then you always win. Just make sure not to stand in his poison too long after you Q him. Just make sure when you Q him, that's the end of the trade. You auto Q. All right, the trade is done. Try not to stay too long. Yeah, but as for runes, always take first strike in this matchup no matter what. Building crit. Make sure you get a Cole on your first recall, and we're chilling. We are absolutely piss chilling. You get so much gold, you get so much value, it's insane. Next matchup, Scion. So similar to Singe, you can take the exact same runes where you go. Something that I didn't actually mention was Dematerializer. You can go Dematerializer into Singed and just farm really hard, get 2 ult upgrades at 19 minutes. Or you can play to be aggressive in lane. I like to be aggressive in lane, so I take Stopwatch, Futures, Time Warp Tonic with first strike, with secondary. In this matchup, usually I would take Transcendence and Gathering Storm. However, there can be an argument made for Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter, although I would say in the Scion matchup, I do think that Transcendence and Gathering Storm has better value versus a big tank like this, where you need a lot of barrels to kill, just like in Singed, or even Shen, as I mentioned before. So I highly recommend that. Something I do recommend is the second Scion ease a minion onto you, instantly orange it, because he's typically going to follow it up with Q or ulti. With ulti you can dodge, so you can sidestep his ulti much easier if you orange his slow. And with his Q, it's easier to avoid his Q overall, as long as you orange instantly his E. His E, again, is that slow, the little toss that he does. Insta orange that, and you should not be getting hit by his abilities. His Q has an annoying hitbox. You're kind of just going to have to play away from minions and hope that he Qs the minions, or doesn't choose to Q at all because he doesn't want to Q you and then lose minions. Playing against Inting Scion a lot, especially playing an EU against boss. That is how I recommend you pretty much play the Scion matchup. Pretty straightforward. You always orange that E to make sure he doesn't get follow-up damage, obviously assuming he's in range. And yeah, pretty easy. If you ever play against Skarner, Sona, Soraka top lane, they're all the same as any other enchanter top lane that we mentioned before, like that Lulu. Take that DMAT, take the Domination secondary, enjoy your LP. Swain, you take Ignite, Grasp, and just like the Lysandra, he will die. You only have one ability to dodge from the Swain though, and that's his hook, his E. But here's the thing about Swain, you can orange that E, you can orange that root, orange that CC, and you could just walk up to him and kill him. Swain is probably one of the easiest mage matchups in the game for GP to play against. Very, very easy, very, very nice. Very, very, very simple. Early executioners will be needed. Tier 1 boots, I would say, are also pretty nice to have early game, especially when you play versus this character, because it just allows you to just dodge all of his abilities, and then even if you get hit by one, you're still not going to get hit by anything substantial. Your Q's chunk the hell out of him, and pretty straightforward matchup. Silas. So Silas is a matchup that I actually recommend bone plating into personally, because his Q a lot of the time doesn't hit, but he likes to follow up with E when he trades. and go for these hard engages. Always take Ignite, just like into the Swain matchup. And if I didn't mention it for the Singe, Scion, or Shen matchup, always take TP. Into those Enchanters top lane, always take TP as well. Silas, you're going to take Ignite. We're going to go either First Strike or Grasp. I would recommend Grasp into Silas. Yeah, I would recommend Grasp into Silas. Taking pretty normal runes, Bone Plating, and Overgrowth. Secondary, taking Inspiration, not Biscuits, because Silas doesn't actually sustain that much. The Futures Market, Time Warp Tonic. Rushing the Executioners as early as possible. Building a D-Blade early also helps to out-sustain him, but just the Executioners and having that Ignite should be enough to kill this guy in top lane. Your damage is so much higher than his, it's insane. You can choose to make this a farm matchup, but I don't think there's ever really a need to do that. I think you really just can kill him whenever he eases in on you, or you could poke him from afar. Tahm Kench, ever since Tahm Kench got his lane nerfed by Riot about, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago, as of the making of this video, Tahm Kench top lane's a joke. He does no damage. He played against a Grasp Ignite top lane Tahm Kench in Master Tier. I solo killed him level 2. It's a joke of a champion now. The matchup is very easy to play. All you have to do is dodge one ability. If you ever get by his Q, always orange it. The reason for that is because if he doesn't follow up with autos after his Q, he can't land his ult. And he typically can't get autos on you the second you orange because you have more movement speed, because you have Time Warp, and you potentially have boots. But even with just Time Warp, you'll have more movement speed than him always. So I definitely do recommend that you just orange his Q slow, and then you'll never get hit by his little E afterwards that Tahm Kench is usually followed up with. And yeah, pretty easy matchup. First Strike, Domination secondary. This is definitely a Treasure Hunter and Taste of Blood matchup in my opinion. Don't take DMAT, definitely take Futures, Time Warp, and Stopwatch. Take TP, do not take Ignite in my opinion in this matchup. I think TP is really, really nice. It gets you so much free scaling. And yeah, enjoy your LP. Teemo! This is a very interesting matchup. So versus Teemo, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to take Ignite, Grasp, Second Wind, and what you can't do on your first recall is buy a D-Shield. But you're also going to take Biscuits. This is one of the matchups that I think you do take Biscuits for, because you're playing a sustain war, especially since you don't know in Champ Select if this guy's going to play Grasp or Airy, but either way, they usually take Domination for Taste of Blood. And yeah, very nice matchup in my opinion. I think it's one of the GP's easiest matchups as well for top lane. You pretty much just Q whenever you have Grasp up while also avoiding getting auto-attacked by him. And if he auto-attacks you once, his poison actually procs your Grasp up entirely. So he kind of does you the extra work that when he auto-attacks you, you could just Q him and then he dies. He kind of just like loses all of his health, especially after Sheen. You always have full autonomy of this lane. You always get to decide whether you want to push or not. Completely up to you as to what you decide to do in this matchup. I would take Grasp, and honestly, you could take Domination secondary with Grasp. This is probably one of the only matchups you could take Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter, but I would probably take Inspiration with Biscuits and Futures Market 10 times out of 10. You're just throwing that option out there. And I would recommend you buy a scanner early just to scan his shrooms. It does make a world of a difference. And other than that, I would say Teemo matchup is all about just pressing Q on him. You're always going to make the same trades for each other. Level 7 is probably when you have the kill pressure versus him as an Ignite top laner with Grasp. You place a barrel in front of him, similar to the Quinn matchup. You out-time him once, you get a Q, and now he's like diveable. Now you just auto-Ignite Q him and he's dead. Very squishy champion. I would say easy matchup to play. And yeah, definitely a good matchup to learn. Trundle is a matchup that I would take either First Strike or Grasp into. Either one works well. I think I take First Strike into Trundle with Stopwatch, Futures, Time Warp. Secondary being Resolve with Bone Plating and Overgrowth, because the only way Trundle gets on you is, again, he has to be in melee range. So you do get a lot of value from playing Bone Plating versus this guy. This is a matchup that you can go Essence or Triforce into. I would probably go Triforce. I'd probably go Triforce and Hullbreaker into Trundle just so I can kill him. Triforce, Hullbreaker, and then I build into crit like a Mortal Reminder. Building that Executioner's Calling early, along with that Sheen. You don't really need Tabbies in this matchup, although it is nice to have Tabbies versus auto-attack based champions. He is very squishy. You can't really do anything in this lane as long as you sit in a barrel, similar to that Garen matchup. It's completely up to you, and as long as you time your barrels, it's unplayable for him. Very, very unplayable. Alright, Tryndamere. Tryndamere is a matchup that so many people purple ban, so many people struggle with. But I actually think it's one of GP's easiest matchups in top lane in general. Now here's the reason why. Because of the addition of Hullbreaker, Frozen Heart getting buffed, and Athena Chains, I think Tryndamere is one of GP's easiest matchups in the entire game. So it starts off, you auto the first minion of the wave, you have Grasp, always. You always take Grasp into this matchup no matter what. You have Ignite, you have Grasp, you take Bone Plating, and what you end up doing is you kind of just slow push him in, and you could usually dive him as long as you're queuing him when he goes for minions and you're trying to auto him when he tries to auto minions as well. As long as you are trying to poke him down a little bit, level 3, level 4, you should be able to murder him, to be honest, under his turret. But if you're not able to, no problem. We have Futures Market, we recall, we buy a Sheen, we sit on a barrel, and same thing any other matchup. If he ever dashes in, you auto the barrel and you win the trade. You instantly win the trade. But Solar, he's gonna hit level 6. What do I do level 6? By level 6, you should already have a Warden's Mail. So you should have Sheen double cloth or Sheen cloth and boots. And you're always gonna rush Warden's Mail. The reason for that is because it blocks, I think, 10% of damage and gives you 30 flat armor, making Tryndamere's life so hard to play. So hard to play. It is for him versus that item. He hates that item so much. It's one of Tryndamere's biggest counters in the entire game. It's just building one Warden's Mail. And yeah, enjoy your LP. I would say the build for this champion is either Triforce into Hullbreaker if you're ahead. Otherwise, it's Triforce, Frozen Heart, and Anathema Chains. But the Anathema's on Tryndamere, and he will never kill you, and you'll be able to take his turret in front of him. I promise you. Ever since I've been going these builds, I've never lost to a single Tryndamere ever. And it's not just because like I play GP, it's because the matchup plays itself when you build properly. And on that note, let's move on to the next matchup. But actually, I just remembered something. When you're level 7 versus Tryndamere, if he ever dashes in and you don't have a barrel already set, you can place a barrel down, auto queue the barrel, instantly blows up, ulti, place another barrel, auto him, blow up that barrel, get 2 passive procs at that point. Always taking 9 to this matchup, by the way. And it's just very easy sailing, very smooth, very easy. Alright, next matchup we have here is the Urgot, actually. So Urgot's a matchup that a lot of people seem to struggle with for some sort of reason. I think it's because they're not able to keep their spacing with their E, or they don't really know what an orange in this matchup. But Urgot's a matchup that is actually GP favored. It's not very heavily GP favored, but it is in GP's favor. I wouldn't recommend First Strike, excuse me, at all. For this matchup, I would highly recommend that you're better off just going Grasp with Second Wind and Overgrowth. And then Inspiration, you go Futures Market with Time Warp Tonic. You can look for a cheater on the 3rd or 4th wave, and whenever I say you look for a cheater, it just means you recall on the 3rd or 4th waves with the gold, about 500 to 630 gold, and that nets you a Sheen and a Longsword typically, or Sheen and a Control Word typically. Sorry about that. I was seeing what my dog was gonna do. I didn't know if he was gonna bite the blanket. Anyways, continuing to move forward. So we take that second win, we have that Overgrowth, and you're kind of just weaving in Qs. You're just kind of weaving in Qs and walking to the side of the minion wave. It's hard to really explain this without some sort of visual representation, because you know, a lot of things are easier said than done. But Urgot, his only way into the matchup is by pressing Q on you and then trying to get in range to E. So a lot of the times Urgot players will E, and then they'll, when they're out of range, and then flash forward. So it's good to always be aware of that. That similar to Malphite, how he's walking forward, he might ult at you and you need to flash that. It's always good to be paying attention to Urgot's E and knowing if you need to flash or not. You can orange his ult execution even as he's grinding you inside of his stomach. You can use your orange and you will be released at the max range in which you were grabbed, or just about half range in which you were grabbed, which is really nice because it means you get distance even after you escape with your health. So really good. As for your build, I do recommend going the Essence Prowlers. However, Triforce can work versus this guy to make sure that you can just face tank him and just keep beating him down. Pretty boring matchup. It's like a slightly weaker Malphite in my opinion, in the sense that he wants to try and fight you, and you can find a few kill opportunities. Whereas with Malphite, you'll find like 0 kill opportunities, usually. Alright, playing versus Vayne. Vayne is one of those ranged top laners who, similar to Lucian, although not exactly the same, tries to bully you. But Vayne is like if Lucian is like a 10 on the ranged matchup scale for how difficult it is, Vayne is probably a 3 or a 4. Vayne is a joke of a character for GP to deal with top lane. You're going to go Grasp, Ignite, Biscuit secondary with Time Warp Tonic. You're going to Q her whenever she tries to go for minions. You're going to Q her whenever you have Grasp up. If she does get that auto in the Q on you, don't sweat it, not a big deal. You're going to place a barrel down, and you'll always go in a timing war with these range matchups because they don't want to lose push. If you do get push, you can cheat a recall for a Sheen, freeze the wave, she can't walk up. You land one Q on her, then you land a barrel on her, she's dead every time. She's very squishy, she's much squishier than Lucian, or she could be just as squishy as Lucian, but she has no way to really peel you off or dodge. Or, yeah, she has no way to peel you off. Even her condemn is pretty weak, because even when she condemns you, you're still typically in Q range. So, yeah, pretty simple matchup, pretty straightforward. You just kind of Q, Ignite, Grasp, make sure you take second wind, Biscuits, and you're chilling. Alright, next matchup that we'll go over is... Okay, so we actually have... Jeez, we have like 5 matchups in a row here. Alright, next matchup we'll go over is Viego. Viego is kind of the same way. It's kind of an off-meta top lane pick, similar to Vayne. Although he kind of just gets beat down. It's kind of like if Urgot didn't have any tankiness and also had no damage. Viego's kind of like the same way. You take second wind, you take Grasp, you take Inspiration. You can take Futures Market into him because he doesn't out-sustain you. He has pretty much no sustain. And what you want to build versus this guy is you want to get a Sheen early, you want to get a D-Blade early. Definitely go crit, so double longsword, and we are taking, like I said, Grasp, get tier 1 boots. Kind of just poking him. It's a little hard to kill Viego only because he has that invisibility and he could dash out at any time, but it is very easy to get a lead and there's no reason you should ever be losing this matchup. Alright, next up we have Victor and Vladimir. So I'll go over these two at the same time because they function the exact same way, Victor and Vladimir. They're both mages for top lane. Go Ignite, go Grasp, second wind, Inspiration, Futures Market, along with Time Warp Tonic. Might surprise you that I didn't say Biscuits, it's because you actually out-sustain both of these characters. When Vladimir is trying to walk up to you, you just kind of Q him. Same thing with Victor, you trade Q for Q. You're trying to barrel both of these champions, you're trying to have them contest your barrels, then barrel them at max range, and then after that you combo that with a Q on them. They both have no say in who gets pushed early on in the laning phase. For Vladimir, he never gets say in who gets pushed on the laning phase. For Victor, he kind of does after he gets his augmented E. But that isn't for a little bit of time. Make sure, as always, you do take that Ignite in these matchups. And placing barrels in bushes, if you guys do watch my barrel guide, will help a lot in both of these matchups because it'll allow you to get edges in lane. Both of these matchups you can solo kill at level 3, level 4 under their turret. And then from there on, you can hold a freeze under your turret. If you ever feel like you're struggling versus these matchups, buy an early D-Blade or buy an early no magic mantle. I would suggest probably D-Blade and like boots, or like Sheen, and then you buy boots afterwards. It really is not a difficult matchup, not either of them really. Victor's a little bit annoying, but Vladimir isn't. And Vladimir is a matchup that a lot of people make out to be difficult, but he really does kind of nothing. Are you okay? You guys notice my dog? He's just staring at me, dude. I took him out. I played with him. He's staring me down. But anyways, yeah. So versus Vladimir, you want to get that early executioners if possible. If you're snowballing really hard, then you don't need it. Versus Victor, like I said, you're buying that D-Blade, buying that boots, and we're chilling. Buying that no magic if you're struggling. All good. Volibear. So Volibear is a matchup that is also very easy that people make out to be a little difficult. I personally take first strike into Volibear, although Grasp is probably recommended. So I would probably recommend that all of you take Grasp with Bone Plating. Since he can't really poke you, he kind of just has to all-in you with Inspiration secondary. With Futures Market, Time Warp Tonic, you contest him really hard in the first wave. You could go Barrel Start into this matchup and it'll work exceptionally well. However, I will just say you go Q Start, you auto the first minion of the wave, you poke him down, you have Ignite, even when he hits level 6, he can't really do anything about it. You have a Sheen, you auto the barrel for the Sheen, you can cheat a recall in the 3rd or 4th wave, by the way, or you can find an early solo kill since Volibear is one of the squishiest characters in top lane. And he can't really play versus you. It's really difficult for him to play this matchup because he kind of has nothing he can really rely on. If he's running at you but you have a barrel, you can just auto the barrel and then you run away and it's like nothing ever happened. If he ults on you, then you just orange his CC and then you're chilling. This is a matchup that you always take Ignite into, one of the weird tanks that you do take Ignite into because you can just murder him. And yeah, that's about it for the Volibear matchup. Alright, and the next matchup we're going to be talking about is Warwick. So this is a matchup that a lot of people struggle with because they say, well, he heals too much. He has way too much healing no matter how much damage I do. And I agree with you, which is why the only time you all in him is when he literally has 100 to 200 health, because that's when you can ignite auto Q him. Some Warwicks take barrier, some don't. Even against the barrier Warwicks, I do recommend you take that advice. You always just have to sit on a barrel and stand your ground. Even if you hit him with a barrel, do not walk up to passive him because he can use his E. You just Q him kind of after his E runs out, but if E doesn't run out, just Q him anyways and you'll get that proc off on him. Early on, you don't actually have too much autonomy in this lane because he can just Q you level 1, or even if you poke him down level 1, he can just auto attack you or heal off the wave. So it's not very easy to get a lead in this lane whatsoever. In terms of the early game. After Sheen though, you should crack his skull open, place a barrel down, auto it, put the Sheen proc on it, Q him with one Sheen proc. If he Qs on you, auto that barrel, ignite him, auto Q, dead. Very easy matchup to get a lead after the early game, and by say early game I mean like the first 5 minutes. And yeah, Warwick is one of those matchups that is all about ignite, grasp, and just rolling him with your keyboard. Wukong is a matchup that I also take Ignite into. I would recommend you take Grasp and you take Bone Plating secondary. That way when he E's on you and he tries to all-in you, you get full value out of your Bone Plating. Take Overgrowth, Bone Plating, Overgrowth, and then second tree we're going to be taking Inspiration with Time Warp Tonic and Futures Market. And playing versus Wukong is all about sitting on your barrel as well, but here's something people don't know. Wukong's Q actually outranges your barrel, and that's really important to know because that means that unlike the other matchups where it's like walk at me, it's like, okay, well, he doesn't actually need to walk at you, he can just Q you from a farther range and then your barrel's gone, right? So here's how you counter that. When you place a barrel down, if you ever see Wukong walking up, walk in front of your barrel and Q him. And if he walks closer to your barrel, then you auto attack him and not your barrel. So your barrel's dead, but you got your Q and you got a passive or just an auto attack on him in addition to your Q. And it hurts him very, very, very much. Make sure you take Executioners early into this matchup. D-Blade is also a really nice item to buy versus Wukong, just to make sure that you win that one early skirmish, because after you win one skirmish, the game is pretty much over and you win forever. So I would say early game is all you really got to worry about. Make sure you got that Bone Plating, make sure you got the Grasp, secondary Inspiration, as we mentioned. And yeah, sitting on your barrel is just going to be very, 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 very strong, and it's going to help you a lot. A lot of these matchups do sound a little bit forehead because it's like, well, just sit on your barrel. But that's also why I recommend that for each of these matchups, you guys type in like Solarbacca, GP versus Wukong, GP versus Warwick. That way, along with what I'm saying, it makes sense because I'm describing what you're going to see in a video if you were to search it up. And that will help translate into your own gameplay and learning it as well. So first up, I'll go Yasuo in talking about the matchups because Yasuo does not play the same as Yone. I would say that Yasuo is probably the harder matchup than Yone is. So Yasuo early on, you want to Q him early. I always take First Strike. I always take the same runes versus Yasuo and Yone. I take First Strike with Stopwatch, Time Warp, Futures. Secondary, I usually take Sorcery with Transcendence and Gathering Storm, although I would probably take Taste of Blood in the Domination tree, secondary, along with Treasure Hunter. It gets you some nice sustain in lane, and it's very easy to kill both of these matchups or get cross-map ult, getting you a lead early on to complete your Essence Reaver and complete other items. Very, very, very nice. That being said, playing versus Yasuo, you try to get those Qs off early game when he tries to go for Qs on minions. If you ever see him trying to weave in an auto on you or a Q on you, try to sidestep it up and down, not backwards. You never dodge backwards or forward. You dodge up and down versus both Yasuo and Yone. And then you try to sneak in a cheeky little auto attack on him, like a passive. Then you run away and Q max range. His wind wall is on a 30-second cooldown, so if he ever uses wind wall for his Q, keep that in mind to like hard shove the wave and then poke him under turret if possible. You have full say in what happens in this lane. You always sit on the barrel too, that way if he dashes in, you're ready to auto attack that barrel, then Q him and auto attack him with your passive from blowing up the barrel, or hit him with the passive from the barrel, and then he might try to wind wall your Q, so then you stand inside of him or you stand to the side, and then you can Q him even if he does wind wall. Or let him wind wall, then walk past his wind wall, then Q him afterwards. You don't need a special build versus this champion. I would say you just go like Sheen boots, maybe get boots early, is very, very nice. And then you just build Sheen, go into normal crit build. Serpent's Fang is very nice to build versus Yasuo, and I didn't mention it earlier. I think I might have, but versus Set, it's also very strong. Any shield bow user, as long as there's one more shield on the team, it always justifies it. He's got his passive shield, he's got his shield bow, which is really annoying. Very, very nice. Overall matchup, skill matchup, skill to easy mode matchup. Yone is a matchup that I think is actually easier than Yasuo, because Yone, you can do a few things. You can, when he gets his Q2 on you, you can actually buffer your barrel, similar to the Camille matchup. You can buffer your barrel onto the Yone, right, when he's dashing in with Q2, and it'll hit the barrel, and then it'll hit him in the process, and then you can hit him with your passive right after that. The other thing you could do is your Q actually outranges Yone W. If I'm not mistaken, your Gangplank Q does outrange Yone W, so much outranges the Kali Q, meaning that if you Q him from a max range, he should not be able to get a shield off, really making the matchup really bad for him. You can also, similar to Yasuo, if he ever tries to go for an auto or a Q on you and you dodge it, you can go for a cheeky auto or a cheeky passive auto on him, or run away and then Q. When he does E, you can, when he does E4, like I said, if he Q2s, then you could buffer that with a barrel, always. And then with your ulti, or sorry, with Yone's ulti, it's pretty nice to sidestep. As long as you're not getting hit by his Q2, then he'll chain ulti right after that. But if you land the barrel, then it's also really hard for him to fully commit. Always take Ignite into both of these matchups, and getting boots early, especially tier 1 boots, are very, very, very nice and healthy for your laning phase. Alright, next matchup we're going to talk about is Yorick. So Yorick is a matchup a lot of people struggle with, but for some reason I don't really understand it all that much, because like it's a matchup that is very easy to get a lead in. So here's one of the runes that I would take. I would take First Strike, and I would take the same aggressive runes with Time Warp Tonic, Futures Market, and Stopwatch. Secondary, I would take Bone Plating. No, I would not. I would not take Bone Plating. I would take Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter. And pretty much when you play versus Yorick, you just kind of Q him and auto him early, and here's where people struggle, right? They're like, well, I can beat him early game, right? And they even have Ignite, which you should take Ignite versus Yorick. They're like, I beat him early, it's just that when he hits me with his E, right? So, two things. Time Warp Tonic gives you movement speed, and buying boots enhances the movement speed given by Time Warp Tonic as well. So, when you actually pop Time Warp, you have tier 1 boots, level 1 for free. When you have boots, and you pop Time Warp, you get tier 2 boots for free. So, it's as if you had Lucidity or Tabbies with the movement speed already. So let's say you dodge his E, right? And it's like, woohoo, everything's great. But you're like, oh shoot, he still has his cage. If you walk at an angle, always walk at kind of like 45-degree angles respectively. Like if you go northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast, you will never get hit by his cage because you'll be able to glitch out of it. It doesn't work as well as if you go up or down, you'll get glitched inside. But if you walk outside, you can actually glitch out of Yorick's E to where you don't actually get trapped inside. And it's really, really nice, especially with tier 1 boots. It makes it way easier to do along with Corrupting Potion. Let's say you did get hit by his E though, and you're like, oh shoot, he's going to trap me in his cage. Insta-orange his slow. A lot of people will get hit in the cage, and then the orange last second, and they'll be like, damn, Yorick's OP. But if you orange the slow right away, then you never get trapped in the cage, and then you can just kill his ghouls. If he ever uses his E and you waste it, that's the time to punish him, but always be aware of his cage to be able to glitch out of it. Pretty much Yorick counter is just buying tier 1 boots in my opinion, and oranging his slow. When he uses his Maiden, all you have to do when he uses his Maiden, Q his Maiden 3 times and it dies. If you Q his Maiden, a lot of people don't know this, but Yorick's Maiden has like 1200 health. 1 Q does like 300 damage to it. It quite literally is 4 Qs for the Maiden to die. That's very nice. And the Maiden he doesn't even have full control over. So a lot of times you can be able to like dodge his E. And you're like, oh shoot, I dodged his E. Let me Q the Maiden. Boom. 3 more times and he doesn't have an ulti for the next 2 or 3 minutes. And now the matchup became 10,000 times easier. In terms of build path, build Prowler's Claw second. That way if you ever do get stuck in his cage, you can just Prowler's Claw him, get out of the cage, and boom, GG, well played. You're on top of him now. And you're not in the cage. So that definitely does help out a lot. And that's pretty much how you win the Yorick matchup. Zac is a matchup that I wouldn't take Ignite into. I'd probably take TP, First Strike, secondary with Domination with Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter, because Treasure Hunter again is a very OP rune that it gives you like 500 gold or 400 gold when it's completed. That's not that hard to complete either. Or even get it like 3 shutdowns, it's not even hard. 3 takedowns. So playing versus Zac, you definitely do want that first strike page that I just talked about. Same one that you would take versus Yorick. And you're kind of just queuing. You're kind of just poking him, to be honest. The only reason you should ever be scared is if he eases in on you. But if he eases in on you and you already have a barrel placed, then you will still win the trade. Now, Zac is actually a matchup I would recommend you buy Executioners into. I would probably buy Executioner since you don't have Ignite. Get an early boots. You could even buy a Cole early game. Zac can't really kill you. He's just annoying. It's very easy for you to poke him. It's very easy for you to potentially kill him. It really is just... This matchup is just so annoying at most. He doesn't kill you. He'll go down like 30 CS, but guess what? You have first strike, you have your Q, you have treasure hunter, you have your ult. If you have cold, you get so much gold. So this matchup is never something you should worry about. This is a matchup that you should be eager to play versus. Alright, last 2 matchups. We have Zed and Zeri here. So Zed's a matchup that I actually find very annoying. I think you do exactly what you do versus Kiana, you do versus Zed. You go for an early Tabbies or an early Ruby Crystal, you buy that cloth armor, and you go Triforce. There you go, Triforce. You buy Anathema second, place it on Zed. GG, well played. Zed can't play the game. Very, very, very easy. Zed can't even kill you early game as long as you build a Ruby Crystal and maybe a D-Blade or Ruby Crystal Cloth Armor, whichever one it is. Again, you're prioritizing these items over Sheen just for the sake of survival. You do that and you'll be fine for the rest of the game. Anathemas and you'll just be able to bully this guy forever. You can take triple Q, Ignite, Auto, LL Stylish, blow your face, like, you know what I mean? Like, anything that happens and you'll just always be able to survive. Biggest thing I could say is you just gotta dodge his Qs, the opposite of where he would imagine you to go after he throws out his E. So if you're in front of him, he'll probably Q in front of you. If he Ws, or even if he just throws a normal Q, so you walk down or you walk up or you walk to the left. Sidestepping is always better than walking in a straight line, especially in the Zed matchup. Zeri! Zeri's a matchup that I think is very difficult for GP to play versus. It's hard to get in range, it's hard to do anything, so here's what you do. Remember that Rise page that we took earlier with that, with First Strike? And how we took Dematerializer and like Boots or Stopwatch, and then we took Future, or not Future, we took Time Warp. Secondary, we took Inspiration. Yeah, so change that Inspiration to Treasure Hunter and Taste of Blood. And pretty much that's it. Zeri can't really touch you. She can't bully you under turret. She's not that strong. And you can always clear the wave after level 7. It just makes it so nice to play the game, to be honest. It's really, 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 really nice to play the game. It's just that initial landing phase that becomes a little bit difficult. And then after level 7, you're chilling for the rest of the game. Very, very, very easy matchup. If you ever wanted to go for barrels on Zeri, then you place barrels in bushes and you try to slow her. And then after you get that slow off, it's pretty much just the biggest trade that you can take on her, and you chunk her, and maybe your jungler comes and you guys 2v1 her. Otherwise, if you're playing in a side lane, then you're going to be trying to barrel her from the side, and then Prowler's Claw onto her, Orange her slow, and then just Prowler's Claw onto her. Again, very difficult matchup though for GP, as she can hit your barrels, and she can penetrate through you and your barrels from farther range than you could even Q her. So that's why I recommend you go that page all the time. That being said, that is the end of the matchup guide.